You are your own worst enemy, and tonight I'll prove it. Drop what time it is where you are in the comments right now. Let's explore every way you sabotage yourself as you fall asleep. Chronic procrastination. You know that task, sitting on your to-do list, the one you've been pushing off for days, maybe weeks, the one that makes your stomach twist a little every time you think about it? That's not laziness talking. That's something far more complex happening in your brain right now. Procrastination is your mind's favorite escape artist. It convinces you that tomorrow will somehow be different, that future you will have more energy, more motivation, more something. But think about it for a moment. When you're scrolling through your phone at 2 a.m., knowing you have that important thing to handle in the morning, you're not actually relaxing. You're stuck in this weird limbo where you're neither resting nor accomplishing anything. Just floating in anxiety soup. The really twisted part? Your brain thinks it's protecting you. Every time you avoid that task, whether it's making that phone call, starting that project, or having that difficult conversation, your mind believes it's keeping you safe from potential failure or judgment. It's like having an overprotective friend who won't let you leave the house because something bad might happen. Picture yourself right now. Maybe you're lying in bed, and somewhere in your mind, there's that thing, you know, the one. It could be responding to that text you've been avoiding, filing those papers, or finally booking that appointment. The weight of it sits there, growing heavier each day. You don't touch it, and the cruel irony is that the actual task would probably take 20 minutes, but you've now spent hours, maybe days, carrying around the dread of it. The cycle feeds itself too. You put it off, then you feel guilty about putting it off, which makes you want to avoid it even more because now it's associated with shame, and suddenly, returning a simple email feels like climbing Mount Everest in flip-flops. Your brain starts creating these elaborate stories about why you can't do it right now. You need the perfect conditions, the right mood. Mercury can't be in retrograde. But while you're waiting for that perfect moment, life keeps moving. Deadlines creep closer. Opportunities slip away. Relationships strain under the weight of unkept promises. And that temporary relief you feel when you choose distraction over action, it always comes with interest. The task doesn't disappear. It just gets bigger, scarier, and develops teeth. The exhausting part is that you're actually working harder by procrastinating than you would by just doing the thing. All that mental energy spent avoiding, justifying, planning to do it later. You're running a marathon in your mind while your body stays perfectly still. And tomorrow? Tomorrow you'll wake up, and that same task will be there. Only now it's one day more urgent, and you're one day more tired from carrying it around. Toxic perfectionism. That task you've been avoiding, sometimes it's not about laziness at all. Sometimes you can't start because deep down you already know it won't be good enough. Not for your standards anyway. You've probably rewritten that text message 4 times before sending it. Or maybe you didn't send it at all because the words just didn't feel right. You've got half-finished projects hiding in folders on your computer, abandoned paintings in your closet, business ideas that never made it past the planning stage. Not because you can't finish them, but because finishing them means they'd exist in the real world, imperfect and judgeable. Think about the last time you tried something new. Remember that knot in your stomach when you realized you weren't immediately good at it? Most people feel a little frustrated and then keep going. But for you, it felt like proof of something darker. Like everyone would see through the facade and realize you're not as capable as they thought. So you either pushed yourself to unhealthy extremes, or you quietly quit and added it to your mental list of things you're just not good at. The peculiar thing about perfectionism is that it disguises itself as high standards. It whispers that it's making you better, pushing you toward excellence. But watch what it actually does. It keeps you frozen. You're standing at the starting line while everyone else is halfway through the race, not because you're slow, but because you're waiting to figure out how to run it perfectly on your first try. You know that project at work you spent 12 hours on when it should have taken 3? You weren't being thorough. You were hiding, adjusting margins, rewording emails for the 5th time, color-coding spreadsheets that no one asked you to color-code. It feels productive, but it's actually just elaborate procrastination dressed in a business suit. You're so busy polishing details that don't matter that you never get to the parts that do. And the standards, they keep moving, don't they? You achieve something, and instead of feeling proud, you immediately see all the ways it could have been better. That compliment someone gave you, your brain instantly files it under "they're just being nice" or "they haven't seen the mistakes yet." You could win a Nobel Prize, and you'd focus on the typo in your acceptance speech. The exhausting part is living with 2 versions of yourself. There's the one everyone sees: competent, put together, reliable. Then there's the one inside your head, constantly measuring the gap between who you are and who you think you should be. That gap, it never closes. No matter how much you achieve, how hard you work, how many people tell you you're doing great, the measuring tape in your mind always finds you coming up short. You've probably noticed how this affects your relationships too. When someone gets close enough to see your imperfections, really see them, you either push them away or exhaust yourself trying to maintain an impossible standard. You can't just be human around people. You have to be the best version of human all the time. No breaks, no bad days allowed. The cruel joke? While you're paralyzed trying to create something perfect, someone else is out there succeeding with work that's half as polished as what you'd produce. They're not more talented, they just understand something you're still fighting against. That done is better than perfect. That B+ work that exists beats the A+ that lives forever in your head. Right now, as you're lying there, you might be thinking about all the things you didn't do perfectly today. The conversation where you said the wrong thing, the work that wasn't your best, the workout you skipped, the meal you should have cooked instead of ordered. Your brain is probably creating a highlight reel of imperfections, playing it on loop. But what if good enough was actually good enough? What if the thing everyone else needs from you isn't perfection, but just presence? What if they'd rather have the real, flawed version of you than the exhausted person trying to hold up an impossible standard? The thing about perfectionism is that it promises to make you invulnerable to criticism, but instead, it makes you your own worst critic. You're living with a judge who never takes a day off, never shows mercy, and somehow gets stricter the harder you try to please them. Negative self-talk. That judge in your head that never takes a day off. It doesn't just criticize your work. It narrates your entire life story, and somehow, it's always written you as the villain. Listen to the voice in your head right now. Not my voice, your voice. The one that's been providing commentary all day. When you woke up this morning, what was the first thing it said? Probably wasn't, "Good morning, superstar." More likely something about how tired you look, how late you're running, how you should have gone to bed earlier. That voice, it's been with you so long, you might not even notice how cruel it is anymore. Think about the last mistake you made. Maybe you forgot something at the store, said something awkward in a conversation, or missed a deadline. Now think about what you told yourself afterward. Would you ever speak to another human being the way you spoke to yourself in that moment? Would you look at a friend who made the same mistake and say those words to their face? Strange, isn't it? You've become fluent in a language of self-destruction, and you practice it every single day. "I'm so stupid. I always mess this up. Why can't I just be normal? These phrases, they roll off your mental tongue so easily, you don't even register them as violence anymore. They're just the soundtrack to your life. But words aren't just words when they live in your head. Every time you tell yourself you're not good enough, your brain believes it a little more. Every "I'm such an idiot" gets filed away as evidence. Your mind doesn't fact-check these statements. It just accepts them and starts building your reality around them. You're literally programming yourself for failure, one cruel comment at a time. You know that thing where someone compliments you and your brain immediately goes, "If only they knew the truth." That's not humility. That's the result of years of telling yourself a story where you're always the fraud, always one mistake away from being exposed. You've rehearsed your inadequacy so many times, it feels more real than any external evidence of your competence. The really insidious part is how this voice pretends to be helpful. It tells you it's keeping you motivated, keeping you humble, keeping you realistic. "I'm just being honest with myself," you say, as if honesty means focusing exclusively on your flaws while dismissing every strength as luck or accident. But when was the last time this honesty actually helped you improve? When did calling yourself an idiot ever make you smarter? Right now, lying there in the dark, you might be replaying conversations from 3 years ago, editing your responses, cringing at things nobody else remembers. Your inner narrator is probably providing detailed commentary on every awkward pause, every imperfect word choice. And tomorrow, you'll be too anxious to speak up in that meeting because you've convinced yourself that everyone's just waiting for you to say something stupid. You've probably noticed how this affects your life in ways you didn't expect. You don't try for that promotion because your inner voice has already explained why you don't deserve it. You don't reach out to that person because you've pre-written their rejection. You don't start that project because you've already narrated its failure in vivid detail. Your inner critic isn't just mean, it's prophetic, creating the exact reality it predicts. And when good things do happen, your internal narrator works overtime to explain them away. That success, luck, that compliment, they're just being nice. That achievement, anyone could have done it. You could win the lottery, and your inner voice would find a way to make you feel guilty about it. The exhausting part is that this voice never sleeps. It's there when you wake up at 3 a.m., ready with a greatest hits compilation of your failures. It's there in the shower, reminding you of that embarrassing thing from high school. It's there right before important moments, helpfully explaining all the ways you're about to mess up. Sometimes you try to argue with it, but it's like wrestling smoke. It knows all your weaknesses, all your secrets, all your fears, because it is you. Or at least, it's wearing your voice like a costume, pretending to be the real you, while the actual you gets smaller and quieter, pushed into a corner by your own thoughts. The voice is probably active right now, isn't it? Maybe it's telling you that you relate to this too much, that you're more messed up than you thought. Or maybe it's saying this is all obvious, that everyone knows this, that you should have figured this out by now. Even while hearing about its tricks, it's still working, still spinning everything into evidence of your inadequacy. People-pleasing. That voice that's so cruel to you it gets strangely quiet when other people need something, doesn't it? Suddenly, all that energy spent tearing yourself down redirects outward, transforming you into someone who can't say no, can't disappoint, can't bear the thought of letting anyone down, except yourself. You probably answered a text today that you didn't want to answer, agreed to something you don't have time for, smiled when you wanted to scream, said, "It's fine," when it absolutely wasn't. And right now, even lying in bed, You might be crafting tomorrow's excuses for why you can't do something, instead of just saying no, because somehow an elaborate lie feels kinder than simple honesty. Think about the last time someone asked you for a favor. Before they even finished talking, you were already nodding, already saying yes, already rearranging your life to accommodate their need. Not because you wanted to, but because the thought of their disappointment felt physically unbearable. Like you'd rather set yourself on fire than deal with the possibility that someone, somewhere, might think you're selfish. You've become a human shock absorber, taking on everyone else's discomfort so they don't have to feel it. Their problems become your emergencies. Their mood becomes your responsibility. You walk into a room and immediately scan for who needs what, who's upset, who might be mad at you, even though they're probably not thinking about you at all. Remember that time you had plans, real plans that you were looking forward to, and then someone called with a minor crisis. You dropped everything. Not because it was life or death, but because saying, "I can't help right now," would have kept you up all night. So instead, you helped, missed your thing, and then lied about being fine with it. You're so good at this performance. You almost believe it yourself. The math never adds up, though. You give 10 hours of your time to save someone else 10 minutes of inconvenience. You sacrifice your peace to maintain theirs. You'll bend yourself into impossible shapes to avoid the discomfort of someone else's frown, and then wonder why you're exhausted all the time, why you feel empty, why you're angry at people who never actually asked you to destroy yourself for them. Because that's the thing, most people aren't demanding you light yourself on fire. They're just cold, and you're offering matches before they even shiver. You've appointed yourself the guardian of everyone else's comfort, a job nobody hired you for, and you're working unpaid overtime with no vacation days. Right now, you might be thinking about tomorrow, who you need to check on, whose feelings you need to manage, whose expectations you need to meet. Your calendar isn't really yours. It's a collection of other people's needs, with you squeezed into the margins. That thing you've been wanting to do for months, it's still waiting, because there's always someone who needs something more urgent than your dreams. The weird part is how you've made everyone else's opinion of you more important than your own. You'll disappoint yourself 100 times to avoid disappointing someone else once. You know that friend who always cancels on you. You forgive them instantly. But if you even think about canceling, you're already drafting an apology novel with footnotes and supporting documentation. And boundaries, what a joke, right? You've tried setting them. Read the articles, practice the phrases. But the moment someone pushes, you fold like origami. I need to focus on myself, you say, right before answering that call, taking on that project, solving someone else's problem that they're perfectly capable of solving themselves. You've become so good at reading other people's needs that you've forgotten how to read your own. Someone asks what you want for dinner, and you say, whatever you want. Not to be accommodating, but because you've genuinely lost track of your own preferences. They've been buried under years of, "it doesn't matter," and "I'm easy." The resentment builds, though, doesn't it? Quietly, secretly, in places you don't like to acknowledge. You're angry at people for taking what you freely give, mad at them for not noticing you're drowning while you're smiling and waving. You keep score of all your sacrifices in a game nobody else knows they're playing. Sometimes, late at night, like right now maybe, you fantasize about disappearing. Not in a dark way, just vanishing somewhere where nobody knows you, where you could figure out who you are when you're not performing for everyone else, where you could say no without explaining, want things without apologizing, exist without constantly monitoring everyone else's emotional weather. But tomorrow you'll wake up, and someone will need something, and you'll give it. Because the alternative, the possibility that they might think you're selfish, difficult, not nice, that feels like death. So you'll keep choosing their comfort over your own life, one yes at a time, until there's nothing left of you but a helpful ghost. Constant comparaison. That helpful ghost you've become, it spends a lot of time looking through windows at other people's lives, doesn't it? Watching everyone else seem so whole, so sure of themselves, so effortlessly living the life that feels impossible for you. You probably opened your phone today and saw it. Someone's perfect morning routine, their dream job announcement, their happy relationship photo. And for just a moment, or maybe longer, you felt that familiar sinking feeling. Like you're falling behind in a race you never signed up for, losing a game where everyone knows the rules except you. The strangest part is that you compare your entire messy, complicated reality to everyone else's highlight reel. You know the anxiety that keeps you up at night, the doubts that plague you, the struggles nobody sees. But when you look at others, all you see is their surface, their success, their apparent ease, and somehow your brain decides this is a fair comparison. Think about the last time you felt good about something you accomplished. How long did that feeling last before you saw someone who did it better, faster, younger, with less effort? Maybe you finally ran that 5 Kelvins, and then you see someone posting about their marathon. You got that promotion, but your old classmate just started their own company. You're proud of your small apartment until you scroll past someone's house tour. It's like you're living with a measuring tape that only works one way. It can measure how far behind you are, but never how far you've come. Every achievement shrinks the moment you hold it up against someone else's. That thing you worked months for. Someone else did it as a warm-up. That progress you made. Someone else started there. You've probably caught yourself doing the math. They're younger and more successful, older and more stable, same age, and somehow have it all figured out. You create these elaborate stories about their lives. They wake up motivated. They don't struggle with simple tasks. They certainly don't lie awake at night wondering why they can't just be normal. They must have some secret ingredient you're missing. Better genes, richer parents, a manual for life that you never received. But here's what your comparison addiction doesn't show you: that person whose life looks perfect. They're probably lying in bed right now, scrolling through someone else's profile, feeling exactly what you're feeling. That friend who seems so confident? They're comparing themselves to you, wondering how you make it look so easy. Everyone's measuring themselves against shadows, comparing their behind the scenes to everyone else's opening night. The really cruel part is how social media turned this into a 24/7 sport. You used to just compare yourself to people in your actual life. Now, you're competing with 7 billion people, all their best moments compressed into perfect squares on a screen. You're not just behind your neighbor, you're behind that stranger in Tokyo, that influencer in Los Angeles, that person from high school you haven't talked to in years but somehow can't stop watching. And the categories, they multiply endlessly. It's not just career success anymore. It's morning routines, workout habits, meal prep, Sunday, skincare regimens, productivity systems, meditation practices, side hustles, hobbies, travel, relationships, parenting styles, home organization. Every aspect of existence has become a metric where you're somehow failing. You know that person you follow who makes you feel the worst about yourself, the one whose posts always leave you feeling empty and inadequate. You can't unfollow them though, can you? It's like picking at a scab, painful but addictive. You need to know what they're doing, need to measure the growing distance between their life and yours, need to torture yourself with evidence of what you're not achieving. Right now, in this moment, you might be thinking about someone specific, that person who seems to have the exact life you want. They're living in your dream city, working your dream job, with the relationship you imagine, the confidence you wish you had. You've studied their life so carefully, you could probably write their biography, except you don't really know them at all. You know their performance, their curation, their personal marketing campaign. The comparison game has this weird side effect too. It makes you perform your own life instead of living it. You do things not because you want to, but because they'll look good in the comparison. You choose experiences based on how they'll photograph, make decisions based on how they'll sound when you tell people. You're so busy trying to catch up to everyone else's show, you forget you're allowed to write your own script. And the goalposts, they never stop moving. Even if you achieve something, there's always someone who has more. You get fit, but someone's fitter. You save money, but someone saved more. You're doing well, but someone's doing better. It's exhausting, this endless race where everyone's running on different tracks toward different finish lines. But somehow, you're convinced you're losing. The midnight scroll continues, each swipe a small cut, each post a reminder of what you're not, what you don't have, what you'll never be. And tomorrow, you'll wake up already behind, already not enough, already losing a competition that only exists in your head. Overthinking everything. That competition in your head, it doesn't just measure you against others. It analyzes every possible move you could make, every path you could take, every word you could say, until you're paralyzed by infinite possibilities and their potential consequences. You've been lying there for how long now? 20 minutes, an hour. Your body is tired, but your mind is running ultramarathons. It's currently solving problems that don't exist, having conversations that will never happen, preparing for catastrophes that exist only in the realm of what if. Remember that simple decision you had to make last week, the one that should have taken 5 minutes but somehow consumed 3 days? Maybe it was choosing what to order at a restaurant, which email response to send, or whether to go to that social event. Your brain turned it into a doctoral dissertation, complete with research, peer review, and endless revisions. You don't just think about things, you excavate them. You dig deeper and deeper until you've unearthed every possible angle, every potential outcome, every way it could go wrong. That text message you want to send. You've written 17 versions in your head, that conversation you need to have. You've rehearsed it so many times. You've already had every possible version of it, except the real one. The overthinking tells you it's being thorough, careful, smart. It's just trying to help you make the perfect decision, say the perfect thing, avoid all possible mistakes. But while you're standing there analyzing the depth of the water, testing the temperature, calculating the optimal entry angle, everyone else has already jumped in, swam to the other side, and moved on with their lives. Think about the last time you had to make a choice. Not a big, life-changing choice, just a regular, everyday decision. Your brain probably treated it like you were defusing a bomb. Every option got dissected, examined from 17 angles, run through countless mental simulations, and after all that analysis, you probably either picked the safe option you were always going to pick, or you got so exhausted that someone else made the decision for you. Right now, there's probably something specific your mind keeps circling back to. That conversation from earlier today. Did you say the right thing? That person's reaction. What did it really mean? That decision you have to make tomorrow. What if you choose wrong? Your thoughts are like a broken record player, stuck on the same groove, playing the same section over and over, wearing deeper into the vinyl with each repetition. You've noticed how this affects your sleep, haven't you? You lie down, ready to rest, and suddenly, your brain decides it's the perfect time for a TED Talk about everything that could go wrong in your life. It's 2 a.m., and you're mentally preparing for conversations you'll never have, solving problems that haven't happened yet, rehearsing apologies for mistakes you haven't made. The wild part is that all this thinking rarely leads to better outcomes. You could spend 6 hours analyzing whether to send that message, crafting the perfect words, considering every possible interpretation, and they'll reply with K. You'll spend a week preparing for every possible question in that meeting, and they'll ask the one thing you didn't think of. All that mental energy, all that preparation, and life still surprises you anyway. And when you try to stop thinking, that's funny. Don't overthink it, people say, as if you have an off switch you've simply forgotten to use. So now you're overthinking about overthinking, analyzing why you can't stop analyzing, thinking about thinking, until your brain feels like it's eating itself. The overthinking has this special talent for time travel too. It drags you into the past. Why did you say that 5 years ago? What if you'd made a different choice? Then it yanks you into the future. What if this happens? What if that goes wrong? You're everywhere except right here, right now, in this moment that's actually happening. You probably have entire relationships that exist only in your head. Arguments you've won against people who don't know you're fighting. Conversations where you finally said what you wanted to say, except you never actually said it. You've lived 1,000 lives in your mind, each one slightly different, each one analyzed and dissected, until you can't remember which parts actually happened and which parts you just thought about so hard they feel real. That decision you're avoiding making right now, you know the one you've thought about it from every angle except the one that matters. What do you actually want? But that's too simple for your complex brain. It needs spreadsheets, pro and con lists, consultation with everyone you know, 3 tarot readings, and a sign from the universe. And even then, you'll doubt whether you made the right choice. The exhausting truth is that your brain is trying to think its way to certainty in an uncertain world. It believes that if it just analyzes hard enough, prepares thoroughly enough, considers every possibility, it can prevent pain, avoid mistakes, guarantee success. But all it's really doing is guaranteeing that you'll be tired. So very tired. From fighting battles that exist only in the space between your ears. Comfort zone addiction. All that exhausting mental warfare, sometimes the only escape is to retreat to what's familiar. Safe, predictable. The same routine, the same places, the same people, the same conversations about the same things. Your world getting smaller and smaller until it fits perfectly around you, like a coffin you've decorated to look like home. You probably ate the same thing for breakfast today that you had yesterday. Took the same route, even though there's a shorter one. Sat in the same spot on the couch. Scrolled through the same apps in the same order. Not because you love these things, but because choosing something different would require a decision, and you've already made too many of those in your head. Your comfort zone isn't really comfortable though, is it? It's just familiar, like that old sweater with holes in it that you can't throw away. It doesn't keep you warm anymore, but at least you know exactly where the draft will hit. At least there are no surprises, no risks, no chance of that horrible feeling when you try something new and realize you're not good at it. Think about the last time someone invited you to something different. A new restaurant, a different kind of event, meeting new people. Your first thought wasn't excitement, it was all the reasons why you couldn't go. You had plans, you're tired, you're busy. But really, the thought of leaving your bubble felt like being asked to go spacewalking without a suit. The routine has become a ritual at this point. Wake up, same coffee, same scroll through social media, same complaints about the same problems, to the same people who give you the same advice you won't take. You're living the same day on repeat, and somehow each repetition feels both mind-numbing and oddly comforting. At least you know what to expect. At least you can't fail at what you've done 1,000 times before. You've built this fortress of familiarity around yourself, and now it's becoming a prison. Those dreams you have, they all require leaving this safe space. That person you want to become, they live outside your comfort zone. But every time you approach the edges, that anxiety kicks in. What if you fail? What if you look stupid? What if everyone's watching? Better to stay where you are. Better to be safely miserable than risk being dangerously alive. Remember that hobby you were going to start, that class you were going to take, that trip you were going to plan. They're all still waiting in the someday folder, aren't they? Because starting means being a beginner, and being a beginner means being bad at something, and being bad at something means, well, it means feeling exactly the way you're trying to avoid feeling. The comfort zone has this sneaky way of shrinking too. Things that used to be easy become hard. That coffee shop you used to go to feels too far now. That friend group feels too overwhelming. Even leaving the house some days feels like too much. You're not agoraphobic, you're just comfortable at home, safe at home, in control at home. You've probably noticed how this affects your stories. When people ask what's new, you have nothing to say, because nothing is new, nothing changes. You're living in a snow globe. Everything looks peaceful from the outside, but you're trapped under glass, breathing the same recycled air, watching the same fake snow fall over and over. And growth requires discomfort. It requires those moments where your heart races, your palms sweat, where you're not sure if you're doing it right. But you've gotten so good at avoiding those feelings that you've also avoided everything that comes with them. Excitement, discovery, the pride of overcoming something difficult. You've chosen numbness over the full spectrum of experience. Right now, you might be thinking about all the things you'd do if you weren't afraid, if failure wasn't possible, if judgment didn't exist, if you could just for once not care about looking foolish. That list is probably long, isn't it? Full of adventures you'll never take, conversations you'll never have, versions of yourself you'll never meet because they live on the other side of your comfort zone. The ironic part is that staying comfortable is actually deeply uncomfortable. That restlessness you feel, that sense that life is passing you by, that's the cost of safety. You're slowly suffocating in bubble wrap, protected from pain, but also from joy, from failure, but also from success, from embarrassment, but also from connection. Your comfort zone promises to keep you safe, but safe from what exactly? From living, from feeling, from the possibility that you might actually be capable of more than you think. Every day, you choose familiar over growth. You're not staying the same, you're getting smaller. Your world is shrinking, one avoided opportunity at a time. Emotional avoidance. That shrinking world you've created, it's not just keeping you from new experiences, it's keeping you from feeling anything too deeply. Because feelings are dangerous. They're messy, unpredictable, completely outside your control. Better to stay numb than risk the full weight of what's really going on inside you. You've become a master escape artist when it comes to emotions. The moment you feel something real starting to surface quick, grab your phone, turn on Netflix, open that bag of chips, pour that drink, text that person, anything, literally anything, to avoid sitting with whatever's trying to come up. You're like an emotional firefighter, but instead of putting out fires, you're putting out feelings before they can fully form. Think about the last time you cried, really cried. Not the tears that leaked out despite your best efforts, but the kind where you actually let yourself feel it. Can't remember. That's not strength, that's a wall so high, you've forgotten what's on the other side. You've confused numbness with resilience, distraction with healing, busy with better. When something difficult happens, you have a protocol, don't you? First, minimize it. It's not that bad. Then, distract yourself. Work, exercise, cleaning, anything that requires focus. Then, if the feeling persists, numb it: food, alcohol, endless scrolling, binge-watching shows you're not even enjoying. And finally, if all else fails, pretend it's not there until hopefully, eventually, it goes away. But feelings don't actually go away. They just go underground. They turn into that tension in your shoulders, that knot in your stomach, that headache that won't quit, that explosion over something tiny because the pressure had to release somewhere. Your body is keeping score of every emotion you've refused to feel, and the bill, it's getting expensive. You know that anger you're not allowed to feel. It's leaking out as passive aggression, that sadness you won't acknowledge. It's showing up as exhaustion, that fear you keep pushing down. It's running your entire life from the shadows, making decisions for you while you pretend it doesn't exist. Right now, there's probably something you've been avoiding feeling. Maybe it's grief over something you lost: a relationship, an opportunity, a version of yourself you had to let go. Maybe it's anger at someone who hurt you, disappointment in how things turned out, or fear about what's coming next. Whatever it is, you've gotten so good at not feeling it that you might not even know it's there anymore. Just a vague sense of weight, of wrongness, of something lurking just outside your awareness. The wild part is how much energy this takes. Avoiding emotions is a full-time job. You're constantly monitoring yourself, constantly redirecting, constantly maintaining the dam that keeps everything locked away. You're using all your strength to hold the door closed against feelings that just want to move through you and be done. And relationships. How can anyone really know you when you don't even let yourself know you? You show up as this edited version, all the messy feelings filtered out. Someone asks how you are, and you say, fine. So automatically, you don't even consider the real answer. They get close to something real, something raw, and you change the subject, make a joke, find a reason to leave. You've probably had moments where something silly made you unexpectedly emotional. A commercial, a song, a random act of kindness from a stranger, and you felt embarrassed, confused. Why are you crying at a dog food commercial? It's because your emotions are looking for any crack, any opening, any excuse to finally be felt. They're sneaking out sideways because you won't let them out the front door. The numbing agents you use, they're not even working anymore, are they? You need more food, more drinks, more distractions to achieve the same level of nothing. You're building tolerance to your own avoidance tactics. Soon, you'll run out of ways to not feel. And then what? What happens when the dam breaks and all those carefully avoided emotions come flooding in at once? Sometimes late at night, when your defenses are down, you get glimpses of what's really there. That profound sadness, that rage, that terror. And it feels so big, so overwhelming, that you immediately reach for your phone, needing the blue light to chase away the darkness. That's not outside, it's inside you, waiting, growing, demanding to be felt. The tragedy is that in avoiding pain, you're also avoiding joy. They're a package deal. You can't selectively numb. When you shut down the difficult feelings, you shut down everything. That's why life feels flat, why nothing really excites you anymore, why even good things feel muted and distant. You've turned down the volume on life itself because you couldn't bear the sad songs. But those feelings you're avoiding, they're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to tell you something. They're trying to move through you, to complete their cycle, to teach you what they came to teach, and then leave. But instead, you've got them trapped, circling endlessly in your system, looking for a way out. Choosing toxic partners, those trapped feelings, that emotional numbness, it makes you a magnet for a very specific type of person. Someone who feels familiar in all the wrong ways. Someone who confirms every terrible thing you've ever believed about yourself. Someone who makes you feel that twisted combination of anxiety and home that you've learned to call love. You can probably picture them right now, that person who made you feel like you were too much and never enough at the same time. Who had you questioning your own reality, apologizing for things that weren't your fault, shrinking yourself to fit into the tiny space they allowed you to occupy. And the strangest part, when they first showed you who they really were, you stayed. You explained it away. You found reasons. You thought you could fix it, fix them, fix yourself enough to make it work. Think about your relationship history for a moment. Notice any patterns? The emotionally unavailable one who kept you at arm's length but never let you go. The one who love-bombed you at first, then slowly dismantled your self-esteem piece by piece. The one who needed saving, who made their problems your emergency, who somehow made you responsible for their happiness while taking no responsibility for yours. You don't just stumble into these relationships, you seek them out, not consciously, of course, but there's something about the way they treat you that feels correct. Like this is what you deserve. When someone is actually kind to you, consistent, emotionally available, it feels wrong somehow. Boring. Like they must not really know you. Like they're making a mistake that they'll eventually realize. Remember that person who was genuinely good for you. The one who communicated clearly, respected your boundaries, showed up consistently. You probably found reasons why it wouldn't work. Too nice, too boring, no spark. But that spark you're looking for, that's not chemistry. That's your trauma, recognizing their trauma. That's your nervous system saying, "Ah, yes, this feels familiar. This must be love." I. You've become an expert at reading red flags as just quirks. They're not controlling, they just care a lot. They're not manipulative, they're just complicated. They're not emotionally abusive, they're just going through a hard time. You could win an Olympic gold medal in mental gymnastics with the routines you perform to justify staying with someone who consistently hurts you. And when friends try to point it out, you defend them. You explain the context they don't understand. You share the good moments, and there are good moments, just enough to keep you hooked, like a slot machine that pays out just often enough to keep you pulling the lever. Those breadcrumbs of affection feel like a feast when you're starving for connection. Right now, you might be in one of these relationships, or just out of one, or in between them, but already scanning for the next person who'll make you feel that familiar ache. You're not looking for happiness, you're looking for intensity, for drama, for someone who makes you feel something, even if that something is anxiety, insecurity, and the constant need to prove your worth. The really insidious part is how these relationships reinforce every negative belief you have about yourself. When they treat you poorly, it confirms that you're hard to love. When they leave, it proves you're not enough. When they come back, it validates that this is the best you can hope for. You're not just in a toxic relationship with them, you're using them to continue the toxic relationship you have with yourself. You know what's really happening? You're choosing people who treat you the way you treat yourself. That inner critic that's so cruel. You found its external representative, that tendency to abandon yourself. You found someone who abandons you too. That belief that you have to earn love through suffering. You found someone who makes you suffer for scraps of affection. And the healthy people, they're interested in you. They see your worth. But you can't accept what you don't believe you deserve. So you unconsciously push them away, or convince yourself they're not right for you. You're more comfortable with someone who hurts you in predictable ways than someone who might love you in ways you've never experienced. Sometimes you fantasize about being alone, not lonely, just alone, free from the exhausting cycle of hope and disappointment. But then the loneliness creeps in, and suddenly even toxic attention feels better than no attention. Even bad love feels better than the void. So you go back, or find someone new who's actually the same person in a different body. The pattern is so consistent it's almost mathematical. Meet someone, ignore red flags, get attached, get hurt, make excuses, try harder, get hurt worse, finally leave or get left. Swear you'll never do this again. Heal just enough to function. Meet someone new. Repeat. Each time thinking this time will be different, but you're the common denominator, and you keep choosing people who confirm your worst fears about yourself. They're not arriving in your life by accident. You're unconsciously auditioning people for the role of proving you're unlovable, and some people are very eager to play that part. Catastrophizing. Every relationship that falls apart, every mistake you make, every minor setback, your brain doesn't just process it, it transforms it into the beginning of the end. A missed call becomes abandonment. A slight criticism becomes total rejection. A small health concern becomes a terminal diagnosis you haven't received yet. Your mind is running a 24/7 disaster movie studio, and you're the unwilling star of every production. Right now, even as you're trying to rest, there's probably at least one worst-case scenario playing on loop. Maybe it's about work, that small mistake that will definitely get you fired, which will lead to losing your apartment, which will lead to... You can see where this is going. Your brain has already written the tragic ending before the story's even started. Remember the last time you felt a weird pain in your body? You didn't just notice it, you Googled it, and within 3 clicks, you'd convinced yourself it was something terrible. Never mind that it went away the next day. For those hours or days, you were already planning your funeral, deciding who would take care of your pets, wondering if you'd updated your passwords recently, all from a muscle twitch that meant nothing. Catastrophizing isn't just worrying, it's Olympic-level disaster prediction. You don't just think something might go wrong, you've already lived through the entire apocalypse in your mind. Someone doesn't text back immediately, they hate you. Your boss wants to talk. You're getting fired. Feel tired lately. Obviously something's seriously wrong. Your brain takes a level 1 concern and immediately cranks it to level 10,000. Picture yourself getting ready for something important tomorrow. A meeting, a date, a phone call, doesn't matter what. Your brain isn't helping you prepare. Instead, it's showing you a highlight reel of everything that could go catastrophically wrong. You'll say the wrong thing. Everyone will judge you. You'll embarrass yourself so badly, you'll have to move to another country and change your name. Sound familiar? What's particularly exhausting is how real these catastrophes feel. Your body doesn't know the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. So while you're lying there, imagining losing your job, your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, stress hormones flood your system. You're physically experiencing disasters that haven't happened, may never happen, but your body is living through them anyway. And probability, logic, those don't exist in catastrophizing land. Your brain completely ignores the 99 times things turned out fine and fixates on that one time something went wrong, then assumes that's the new normal. Every plane will crash. Every relationship will end in betrayal. Every headache is something sinister. Your mind has become a broken calculator that can only multiply by disaster. You've probably noticed how this affects your decisions. You don't take that opportunity because you've already visualized all the ways it'll go wrong. You don't speak up in meetings because you've pre-lived the humiliation. You don't go to the doctor because you've already convinced yourself of the worst diagnosis, and somehow not knowing feels safer than confirming the catastrophe your brain has already decided is true. Small inconveniences become life-ending crises in your mental screenplay. Your car makes a weird noise, it's going to explode. Not immediately first, it'll break down somewhere dangerous, cost more than you have to fix, cause you to miss something important, and trigger a chain of events that ruins your entire life. All from a squeaky belt that needs $5 of lubricant. Friends and family try to reassure you. You're overthinking, they say. It'll be fine, they promise. But their logic bounces off your catastrophizing like rain off a windshield. Because you're not operating in the realm of logic, you're living in a parallel universe where Murphy's Law isn't just possible, it's guaranteed. Where everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and several things that can't go wrong will find a way to go wrong anyway. Sometimes you're right, aren't you? Sometimes the bad thing does happen, and your brain holds onto that like evidence, like proof that your catastrophizing is actually just being realistic. You forget the hundreds of times you were wrong, the countless disasters that never materialized, but that one time you were right. Your brain treats it like vindication, permission to keep producing disaster movies about your future. Right now, in this quiet moment, your mind might be writing tomorrow's tragedies, building elaborate catastrophes from tiny seeds of possibility, creating problems that don't exist, suffering through situations that haven't happened, dying 1,000 deaths in your imagination, while your real life, your actual, happening right now, life passes by unnoticed. You're so busy preparing for disasters that you're missing the fact that right now, in this moment, you're okay. Nothing terrible is happening. But your brain can't accept that. It needs to be vigilant, needs to be ready, needs to see around every corner where danger might be hiding, even if it has to invent the danger itself. Rejecting compliments. In between all the disasters your mind creates, something else strange happens when reality tries to break through with good news. Someone says something nice about you, and your brain immediately goes to work, not catastrophizing this time, but dismantling, dismissing, destroying any evidence that you might actually be worthy of praise. You did a great job on that project. They're just being polite. You look nice today. They want something. You're so talented. They don't know what they're talking about. Every compliment gets filtered through a translator in your head that converts praise into lies, kindness into manipulation, recognition into mistakes. Watch what happens in your body when someone compliments you. You physically recoil, don't you? Shoulders tense, eyes look away. That uncomfortable laugh escapes. You might even feel angry. How dare they put you in this position where you have to deflect their obviously wrong assessment of you? It's easier to accept an insult than a compliment, because at least the insult feels true. You've developed an entire arsenal of compliment rejection techniques. The redirect, oh, it was nothing. The deflection, it was a team effort. The self-deprecation, I just got lucky. The counter-compliment, no, you're amazing. Anything to get the spotlight off you, to return the gift unopened, to maintain your membership in the I'm not good enough club. Remember the last time someone genuinely praised your work? Your brain probably started an immediate investigation. What did they miss? What mistakes didn't they notice? What would they think if they knew how long it took you, how many times you had to redo it, how anxious you were the entire time? You hold evidence of your inadequacy, that apparently only you can see. Like you're wearing special glasses that reveal the truth everyone else is too naive to notice. Sometimes you even preemptively reject compliments that haven't been given yet. You finish something you're proud of for exactly 3 seconds before your brain starts pointing out all its flaws. You share something you created but immediately add disclaimers. It's not very good. I know it needs work. It's just a rough draft. You reject your own approval before anyone else can offer theirs. And achievements? They evaporate the moment they happen. Graduate with honors? Anyone could have done that. Get promoted? They probably just needed to fill the position. Receive an award? Must have been a weak year for candidates. Your brain has a black hole where accomplishments go to disappear, sucked into a void where nothing you do is ever enough to prove you're enough. People close to you have probably stopped trying to compliment you. Why bother when you're going to argue with them, present evidence against their opinion, make them defend their kind words like they're on trial? You've trained everyone around you to stop seeing your worth because you refuse to see it yourself. Meanwhile, criticism sticks like superglue. Someone makes one negative comment and you'll remember it forever, word for word, analyzing it when you can't sleep, using it as evidence in the case you're constantly building against yourself. One person says something harsh and it becomes gospel. 10 people say something kind and they're all mistaken. You keep a mental file of every mistake, every failure, every moment you weren't perfect but successes, compliments, good moments. Your brain has no storage space for those. They bounce off like your mind is wrapped in compliment-proof armor. You could literally save someone's life, and you'd focus on how you could have done it better, faster, more gracefully. Right now, if you think about yourself, what comes up first? Probably not your strengths, your achievements, the times you made someone's day better just by being you. No, it's the mistakes, the flaws, the evidence that supports the story you've been telling yourself. The compliments people have given you have dissolved like sugar in water, but the criticisms, those have crystallized into permanent monuments to your inadequacy. Friends, family, even strangers sometimes see something valuable in you, something worth praising, worth acknowledging, worth celebrating. But you've appointed yourself the sole judge of your worth, and you're the harshest judge imaginable. Every piece of evidence in your favor gets thrown out of court, while every failure gets filed in permanent records. Living like this is exhausting, constantly defending yourself against kindness, maintaining walls against any evidence that you might actually be okay, fighting off compliments like they're attacks, treating praise like it's poison. Unrealistic goals, fighting off praise while simultaneously setting standards for yourself that would make perfection itself feel inadequate. It's a special kind of self-torture. You don't just set goals, you set impossible missions. Mount Everest isn't high enough. You need to climb it backwards, blindfolded, while juggling, in record time, on your first try. Look at your goals right now. Not the ones you tell people, the real ones, the ones keeping you up at night. Lose 30 pounds in a month. Master a new skill in a week. Transform your entire life by next Tuesday. Your goals aren't stepping stones. They're quantum leaps across canyons. And when you inevitably don't achieve them, because physics exists, and you're human, you use it as proof that you're a failure. New Year's resolutions, you don't make 1 or 2, you create a complete life overhaul plan that would require 4 of you working full-time to achieve. Exercise every day, meditate every morning, learn 3 languages, start a business, save half your income, read 50 books, travel the world, and somehow also get 8 hours of sleep. By January 15th, you've failed at all of them and decided you're hopeless. Remember the last time you started something new? You didn't give yourself permission to be bad at it first. You expected to skip the learning curve entirely. Other people can take months or years to develop a skill, but you should be an expert immediately. And when you're not, when you're exactly as beginner level as every other human who's ever started something new, you quit. Not because you can't do it, but because you can't do it perfectly immediately. Your unrealistic goals serve a hidden purpose, though. They protect you from the possibility of actual success. Can't fail at something achievable if you only attempt the impossible, right? It's like setting your alarm for 3 a.m. to run a marathon when you haven't walked around the block in months. You've guaranteed failure before you've even started, which means you never have to face the uncertainty of genuine effort. Small progress doesn't count in your world. Walked for 10 minutes? Should have been an hour. Saved $20? Should have been 200. Made one person smile? Should have changed their entire life. You measure yourself against imaginary superhuman standards, then wonder why you always come up short. It's like judging a fish by its ability to climb trees, except you're both the fish and the judge. Weekend plans probably look like military operations in your mind. Clean the entire house, meal prep for the month, fix everything that's broken, learn that new hobby, catch up with all your friends, and somehow also rest and relax. By Sunday night, you've done none of it completely, all of it partially, and you're more exhausted than when you started already creating next weekend's impossible list. You've probably noticed how these unrealistic goals affect your motivation. Why start if you know you can't finish? Why try if perfect isn't possible? So you wait. Wait for the perfect time when you'll have unlimited energy, zero distractions, and superhuman abilities. Wait for the motivation that will carry you effortlessly to your impossible finish line. Spoiler alert, that day isn't coming. And progress? Real, actual progress. It's invisible to you. You could improve by 90%, and all you'd see is the 10% gap between where you are and where your impossible standards say you should be. You're climbing mountains but only noticing how far you are from the moon. Running marathons but upset you're not flying. Right now, you might be thinking about all the goals you've abandoned, the projects half-started, the dreams deferred because they couldn't be achieved perfectly and immediately. Your life is littered with the ghosts of unrealistic expectations, each one proof in your mind that you're not capable, when really they're proof that you're human attempting superhuman feats. Setting achievable goals would mean admitting you're mortal, admitting you have limits, admitting that progress takes time, but that would require self-compassion, and you'd rather set impossible standards than risk the gentleness of being reasonable with yourself. Better to fail at the impossible than succeed at the achievable. At least then, you can maintain the fantasy that, if you just tried harder, you could be superhuman. Conflict. Avoidance. Maintaining impossible standards while keeping everyone happy. It's like juggling flaming torches while walking on a tightrope. Any confrontation, disagreement, or even mild tension sends you into full retreat mode. Peace at any price, even if the price is your own sanity. Someone cuts in front of you in line. You say nothing. A coworker takes credit for your work. You smile and congratulate them. Your friend cancels on you for the 5th time. No worries, totally understand. You've become so skilled at swallowing your words that you probably have entire conversations lodged in your throat, unsaid sentences accumulating like sediment. Picture the last time someone did something that genuinely upset you. Did you address it? Or did you do what you always do, rationalize their behavior, minimize your feelings, and file it away in that growing folder labeled "Things I'll Never Say But Will Think About" at 2 a.m.? You've gotten so good at avoiding conflict that you have conflicts with people who don't even know you're fighting. Boundaries are theoretical concepts in your world. You read about them, think they sound nice, maybe even plan to set some tomorrow. But when the moment comes, when someone crosses that invisible line you've drawn in disappearing ink, you just step back and redraw the line. And again, until you're backed into a corner, smiling and insisting you love it there. You know what's happening inside you during these moments, though. While you're nodding and agreeing, your jaw is clenched. While you're saying, "It's fine," your stomach is in knots. You're having the fight just internally, where it can't resolve anything, but can definitely give you a stress headache. You're a one-person boxing match, beating yourself up for not speaking up, while simultaneously terrorized by the thought of actually doing it. Text messages sit in your drafts folder, the honest ones, the ones where you actually say how you feel, but you'll never send them. Instead, you'll send the edited version, the one where you've removed all the truth and replaced it with exclamation points and emoji to make sure no one could possibly think you're upset. You've mastered the art of seeming agreeable while slowly drowning in resentment. Meetings, family dinners, group chats, you navigate them like minefields, carefully stepping around any topic that might cause tension. Someone says something offensive, you suddenly need to use the bathroom. Political discussion starting, time to become fascinated by your phone. Someone asking your actual opinion on something controversial. Oh, I can see both sides. And when conflict finds you anyway, because it always does, you either freeze like a deer in headlights or transform into an apology machine. "I'm sorry" becomes your shield, your sword, your white flag all at once. You apologize for things that aren't your fault, for taking up space, for having feelings, for existing in a way that might have possibly maybe caused someone somewhere to feel something negative. Relationships suffer in silence because of this. Problems that could be solved with one honest conversation instead fester for months, years. You'd rather let a friendship die slowly from unspoken resentments than risk one uncomfortable moment of truth. You'll stay in situations that make you miserable rather than have the confrontation required to change them. Remember that thing someone said weeks ago that hurt you? You're still carrying it, aren't you? Playing it over in your mind, having imaginary conversations where you finally say what you wanted to say. But in real life? In real life, you laughed it off, changed the subject, pretended it didn't leave a mark. Now it's too late to bring it up, so it just lives in you, taking up space where peace could be. People probably think you're so easygoing, so flexible, so drama-free. They have no idea about the drama playing out in your head, the court cases where you prosecute and defend simultaneously, the lengthy closing arguments you deliver to your shower wall. You're not avoiding conflict, you're just having all your conflicts in private, where no one wins and nothing gets resolved. Right now, there's probably someone you need to have a conversation with, something you need to say, a boundary you need to set, a truth you need to speak. But even thinking about it makes your heart race, doesn't it? Your brain is already supplying you with worst-case scenarios. They'll hate you, they'll leave, they'll think you're difficult. Better to keep the peace, even if that peace is actually just quiet war. Self-isolation, keeping all that conflict inside, all those unspoken words eventually, it becomes easier to just disappear, not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, message by message left unread, invitation by invitation declined, until solitude becomes your default state and loneliness becomes your closest companion. You weren't always like this, remember? You used to make plans, show up, engage, but somewhere along the way, being around people started feeling like performing in a play, where everyone knew their lines except you. So you started choosing the couch over the coffee shop, Netflix over nightlife, the safety of your own company over the exhaustion of being perceived. Check your phone right now. How many messages have you left unread? How many times have you typed, "Sorry, just saw this," when you saw it hours, maybe days ago? You've become a master of the slow fade, the gradual withdrawal, the art of becoming unavailable without anyone noticing until you're already gone. I'm just tired. Work's been crazy. Maybe next time. Your excuse library is extensive and well rehearsed. But the truth is that maintaining friendships feels like running uphill while carrying everyone else's expectations. Being alone might be lonely, but at least it doesn't require you to pretend you're okay. At least solitude doesn't ask you how you've been and expect an honest answer. Weekends arrive, and instead of relief, you feel that familiar dread. Everyone's making plans, living their lives, and you're creating elaborate reasons why you can't join. Not because you don't want connection, you're starving for it, but the energy required to show up, to be present, to engage. You'd rather stay hungry than attempt to eat when everything tastes like cardboard anyway. Social battery. That's what people call it now. Like it's cute, like it's quirky. But yours doesn't just drain, it starts at empty. You wake up already exhausted by the thought of having to exist in front of other people. Every interaction feels like lifting weights you're not strong enough to carry, so you've stopped going to the gym entirely. Friends drift away confused. They don't understand why you stopped responding, stopped showing up, stopped trying. And you can't explain that you're not choosing isolation. Isolation is choosing you. It feels safer in your cocoon, even as it suffocates you. At least when you're alone, no one can disappoint you except yourself, and you're already used to that. Sometimes, you scroll through social media, watching everyone else live their connected lives, feeling simultaneously relieved you're not there and destroyed that you're missing it. You want to reach out, want to belong, you want to be included, but wanting and doing are separated by an ocean of anxiety you can't seem to swim across. You've probably had moments of clarity where you promise yourself you'll reconnect. Tomorrow, you'll text that friend back. This weekend, you'll accept that invitation. Next month, you'll finally make those plans. But tomorrow comes, and the phone feels too heavy, the words feel too hard, and isolation whispers that it's safer here. In the quiet, where no one can hurt you, and you can't hurt anyone. Group chats continue without you. Inside jokes develop that you're not inside of. Life moves forward while you're standing still, watching through windows you've locked from the inside. You're homesick for connections you're actively avoiding, mourning friendships you're letting die, grieving a social life you're suffocating with your own hands. And the longer you stay isolated, the harder it becomes to return. How do you explain a 6-month absence? How do you restart conversations that ended mid-sentence? How do you show up when everyone's moved on, evolved, continued their stories while yours has been on pause? The isolation feeds itself. The longer you're gone, the more impossible returning feels. Birthdays pass unacknowledged, milestones happen without witness. You're living a life that no one sees, succeeding and failing in private, celebrating and crying alone. You've become a ghost in your own existence, haunting the edges of a life you're too scared to fully inhabit. Right now, right this moment, someone misses you. Someone's wondering where you went, why you disappeared, if you're okay. But you can't imagine anyone thinking about you when you're not there. Can't believe you matter enough to be missed. So you stay hidden, protecting yourself from rejection by rejecting everyone first, choosing loneliness over the possibility of not being chosen. The silence has become comfortable now, hasn't it? Even when it's killing you. Breaking self-promises. Silence and solitude have become your companions, and in that quiet space, you make deals with yourself. Tomorrow will be different. Monday is a fresh start. Next month, everything changes. But promises made to yourself have the lifespan of morning mist, visible for a moment, then gone without a trace. I'll go to bed early tonight. It's 3 a.m. and you're still scrolling. I won't drink coffee after noon. It's 4 p.m. and you're on your third cup. I'll start that project today. It's been 6 months. You've become so unreliable to yourself that if you were someone else, you wouldn't trust you with anything important. Every broken promise started with such conviction, didn't it? You really meant it when you said you'd wake up at 6 a.m. to exercise. You felt the determination coursing through your veins when you swore you'd stop that bad habit. You could visualize the better version of yourself so clearly, and then morning came, or temptation appeared, or motivation evaporated, and you chose the familiar disappointment over the unfamiliar discipline. Think about your New Year's resolutions, not just this year's, but all of them, stretching back like a graveyard of good intentions. Same promises, different years. You could probably recycle the same list for the next decade because you know deep down, you know you won't keep them. You're not even trying to fool yourself anymore. You're just going through the motions of someone who might change. Small promises hurt the most, though. Not the grand life transformations, but the tiny commitments. I'll drink more water. I'll take a walk. I'll call that friend. Simple things that would take minutes, but somehow those minutes never come. Or they come, and you choose something else, someone else, anything else but the thing you promised yourself you'd do. You've probably developed a twisted ritual around these self-promises. Make the commitment with enthusiasm, usually at night, when tomorrow feels full of possibility. Wake up and immediately negotiate with yourself. Find a loophole, an excuse, a reason why today isn't actually the right day. Promise you'll start tomorrow instead. Repeat until you stop pretending you'll ever follow through. And accountability? You can't be accountable to someone who never enforces consequences, especially when that someone is you. What happens when you break a promise to yourself? Nothing. No punishment, no disappointment from others, no external consequences. Just another tiny crack in your self-trust. Another small piece of evidence that you're exactly as unreliable as you feared. Weekend plans you make with yourself are comedy gold in retrospect. Friday night, you're planning productivity. Saturday morning, you're negotiating for just another hour of sleep. Saturday afternoon, you're bargaining that Sunday will be the productive day. Sunday night, you're promising that next weekend will be different. It's a recurring performance where you play both the optimist and the saboteur. Sometimes you try to trick yourself. Set alarms with aggressive labels. Put your running shoes by the bed. Prep the healthy meals. Create elaborate systems to force future you to comply. But future you is clever, skilled at dismantling any trap present you sets. Future you knows all your passwords, all your hiding spots, all your weaknesses. Future you is undefeated in the game of self-sabotage. I won't do that again, you say after each failure, each moment of weakness, each repeated mistake. But even as the words form, you know they're hollow. You're not making a promise, you're performing a ritual of false hope. You need to say it to feel like you're trying, even though trying stopped being real a long time ago. Remember when you used to believe yourself? When I will meant something? Now your promises are just wishes dressed up as commitments, hopes masquerading as plans. You've cried wolf to yourself so many times that even you've stopped listening. Your word to yourself means nothing, and that might be the loneliest betrayal of all. Right now, You're probably thinking about all the promises you've made recently, the ones you've already broken, the ones you're about to break, the ones you'll make tomorrow, despite knowing how this story ends. You're trapped in a cycle of disappointing yourself, and the worst part? You've accepted it. You've made peace with being someone you can't count on. Every unkept promise is a vote for who you believe you really are. Someone who can't change, won't change, isn't worth the effort of changing for. You wouldn't repeatedly lie to someone you respected. So, what does that say about how you see yourself? Living in past. Every broken promise joins a collection you've been curating for years. A mental museum of mistakes, regrets, and moments you can't seem to stop visiting. While everyone else is living in 2025, part of you is still stuck in 2015, 2010, maybe even further back, replaying scenes you can't edit, having conversations with people who've forgotten you exist. At 2 a.m., when sleep won't come, you're not counting sheep, you're counting mistakes. Remember that thing you said in middle school that made everyone laugh at you instead of with you? Your brain does. That relationship you ruined 5 years ago, you're still having arguments with them in your shower. That opportunity you didn't take. You've lived the alternate timeline 1,000 times, the one where you were brave enough, smart enough, different enough. Memory is supposed to help you learn, but yours is a prison guard, making sure you never forget your crimes against yourself. You don't just remember mistakes, you relive them in 4 kelvins, ultra-high definition with surround sound. You can barely remember what you had for breakfast, but you can recall with perfect clarity the exact expression on someone's face when you disappointed them 7 years ago. Social media makes it worse, doesn't it? Everyone else posts their highlight reels moving forward, but you're scrolling through your own past, cringing at old photos, old posts, old versions of yourself. Sometimes you check profiles of people you haven't talked to in years, not because you want to reconnect, but because you need to torture yourself with evidence of lives that continued without you. You've probably played the what-if game so many times you could go professional. What if you'd taken that job? What if you'd stayed in that city? What if you'd said yes instead of no, no instead of yes? You've created an entire multiverse of alternative lives, each one better than the one you're living, because in those imaginary timelines, you made the right choice. You were the person you were supposed to be. Old conversations live rent-free in your head, except now they go differently. Now you have the perfect comeback, the right words, the wisdom you needed then, but only found years too late. You win arguments that ended a decade ago. You confess feelings to people who are now married to someone else. You stand up for yourself in moments when you stayed silent. You're undefeated in battles that already ended in your defeat. Photographs are time machines you shouldn't operate, but you do, don't you? Late at night, scrolling through old pictures, trying to remember what it felt like to be that person who looked happy, who had those friends, who lived that life before everything went wrong, before you became who you are now, before you made the mistakes that led you here, to this moment, lying awake, wishing you could go back and whisper warnings to that smiling person in the photo. Sometimes you run into people from your past and panic, not because you're not happy to see them, but because seeing them makes you realize how stuck you are. They've moved on, evolved, become new people, while you're still the same person who knew them back then, just older, more tired, carrying more regret. And growth? How can you grow when you're constantly time-traveling backwards? Every step forward gets negated by 3 steps, back into memories that hurt. You're trying to drive while staring in the rearview mirror, wondering why you keep crashing. The past isn't just behind you, it's on your shoulders, in your pocket, under your skin, weighing you down with its familiar heaviness. Forgiveness is a foreign concept when it comes to yourself. Other people's mistakes from years ago, water under the bridge. Your mistakes, they're fresh wounds you pick at daily, keeping them raw, making sure they never heal. You're the prosecutor, judge, and jury in a trial that never ends, presenting the same evidence over and over, reaching the same guilty verdict every time. Right now, there's probably a specific memory that won't leave you alone, something you wish you could undo, redo, or just forget. But forgetting feels like letting yourself off the hook, and you can't do that. You need to remember, need to punish yourself, need to make sure you never forget what you're capable of. The disappointment, the failure, the proof that you've always been exactly who you are right now. Meanwhile, the present moment, this actual moment happening right now, slips by unnoticed, unlived, already on its way to becoming another regret you'll replay years from now. You're so busy living in the past that you're not creating any new memories worth remembering, just more empty days that blur together into evidence of a life spent looking backward. External validation, seeking, living in a museum of your own mistakes leaves you desperate for proof that you're not as terrible as you've convinced yourself you are. So you search for it constantly, exhaustingly in everyone's eyes except your own. Their opinions, their reactions, their approval becomes the oxygen you need to breathe. Every interaction is a test you're grading yourself on. Did they laugh at your joke? Good, you can exist for another hour. Did they seem distracted when you were talking? You'll spend the next 3 days analyzing what you did wrong. You're not having conversations anymore. You're performing for an audience of judges, hoping for a score high enough to justify your presence. Check your phone after you post something. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Refresh, check again. Each like is a tiny hit of worthiness. Each comment a validation that you matter. Each share proof that you said something valuable. But it's never enough, is it? 50 likes feel like failure if someone else got 100. The compliments fade within minutes, but that one person who didn't respond, you'll think about them all week. You've probably changed your outfit 3 times this morning based on who you might run into, rehearsed conversations in case you see that person whose opinion matters too much, crafted your entire personality around being likable, agreeable, impressive, whatever you think they want you to be. You're a chameleon, but instead of changing colors for survival, you're changing entire identities for approval. Work presentations aren't about sharing information. They're about proving you deserve to be in the room. Social gatherings aren't about connection. They're about monitoring everyone's reaction to you, adjusting your behavior in real time based on micro-expressions you may or may not be reading correctly. You're exhausted not from what you do, but from constantly calculating what everyone thinks about what you do. Remember when you did something you were genuinely proud of? For about 30 seconds, you felt good. Then you needed someone else to confirm it was actually good. Their lukewarm response destroyed your joy instantly. Their enthusiasm became more important than your own satisfaction. You've outsourced your self-worth to everyone else, and they don't even know they're carrying that responsibility. Messages sit in your drafts because you're calculating the perfect way to phrase things for maximum approval, minimum risk of judgment. You delete and rewrite texts, emails, comments not to communicate better, but to ensure you're perceived correctly. You're not expressing yourself. You're curating a version of yourself you think will be most palatable. Someone doesn't text back immediately. They hate you. Someone's tone seems off. You've done something wrong. Someone gives you constructive criticism. Your whole world collapses. You're reading between lines that don't exist, finding rejection in neutral interactions, creating entire narratives about what others think of you based on nothing, really. Just your own projection of unworthiness seeking confirmation. You know what's particularly cruel. The people whose validation you crave the most are often the ones least capable of giving it. That emotionally unavailable parent, that critical ex, that friend who barely notices you, they become the gold standard of approval you're always reaching for, but never quite grasping. Meanwhile, the people who genuinely see your worth, their opinions somehow matter less, and achievements they only count if others acknowledge them. You could cure cancer, but if no one noticed, did it really happen? You measure your worth in external reactions, likes, comments, praise. Your internal compass is broken, always pointing toward whatever direction others are facing, leaving you dizzy from constantly spinning to match their orientation. Sometimes you do things not because you want to, but because of how they'll look to others. Take that photo for Instagram, not the memory. Choose that career for prestige, not passion. Stay in relationships that look good from the outside while dying on the inside. You're living your life like it's a performance review, and everyone but you gets to write the evaluation. Right now, you might be thinking about whose opinion matters most to you, whose approval you'd do almost anything to get, whose validation would finally make you feel enough. But deep down, you know the truth. No amount of external validation will ever fill the void where self-acceptance should be. You could get a standing ovation from the entire world, and you'd still wonder if they really meant it. You're standing in front of a mirror that only works when other people look into it for you, telling you what they see. But their reflection keeps changing based on their mood, their own issues, their perception, and you keep changing yourself, trying to match an image that was never real to begin with. Creating unnecessary chaos. Constantly shape-shifting for approval becomes exhausting, and sometimes, just sometimes, life actually calms down. Everything's stable, peaceful, even. But instead of relief, you feel something else creeping in. Anxiety, restlessness, an unbearable itch that can only be scratched by setting something on fire, metaphorically speaking. Or, maybe not so metaphorically, peace feels wrong in your body. Like wearing clothes that don't fit, like silence that's too loud, like a calm before a storm that never comes, so you become the storm. You pick fights with people who love you, quit jobs that were working, end relationships that were healthy, create problems where none existed because problems feel like home. You've probably noticed the pattern by now. Everything's going well, maybe for the first time in a while. Bills are paid, relationships are stable, work is manageable. And then almost like clockwork, you do something to destroy it. Send that text you shouldn't send. Make that impulsive decision. Say that thing you can't take back. It's like you're allergic to stability, breaking out in chaos whenever life gets too comfortable. Why does disaster feel safer than peace? Because you know disaster. You're good at disaster. You've got a PhD in surviving chaos, but you never learned how to exist in calm waters. When everything's on fire, at least you know what to do, put out fires. But when there are no fires, you don't know who you are without a crisis to manage. Think about the last time you had a genuinely good day. No drama, no problems, just nice. How long before your brain started searching for what's wrong? Before you started creating scenarios, picking apart the good things, finding flaws where none existed. Your mind is like a metal detector on a beach, but instead of treasure, it's programmed to find problems, and if it can't find them, it manufactures them. Boredom feels like dying to you. Not metaphorically, it physically feels dangerous. So you create chaos like medicine, drama like oxygen. Start arguments about nothing. Make impulsive purchases you can't afford. Text your ex at 2 a.m. Blow up your life in small, manageable doses because controlled explosions feel safer than waiting for the big one you're convinced is coming anyway. Relationships become casualties of your chaos addiction. Partners who offer stability get labeled boring. Friends who don't bring drama get forgotten. You're drawn to complicated people with complicated problems because at least then you have something to fix, something to worry about, something to keep you from facing the terrifying void of a peaceful evening with your own thoughts. You might be doing it right now, scrolling through your phone, looking for something to be upset about. Checking messages from people you know will frustrate you. Reading comments that will make you angry. Seeking out content that disturbs your peace, because disturbed peace feels more honest than undisturbed peace. At least when you're upset, you feel real. Social media becomes your chaos dealer. Drama on demand, 24/7. You follow accounts that trigger you, engage in arguments with strangers, share controversial opinions, just to see what happens. You're poking bears everywhere, then acting surprised when they roar. But the roar, the conflict, the tension, the chaos, it confirms you exist. It's proof you matter enough to fight about. Financial stability? Can't have that. The moment you have savings, you'll find a crisis that needs exactly that amount. The second you're ahead, you'll make decisions that put you behind again. It's not self-sabotage exactly. It's self-soothing through self-destruction. The familiar stress of not having enough feels safer than the unfamiliar peace of having enough. Work becomes a chaos playground too. Project going too smoothly? Time to complicate it. Relationship with co-workers too easy? Create some tension. Everything running on schedule? Find a way to create urgency where none existed. You're not trying to fail. You're trying to feel normal. And normal for you has always meant some level of crisis. Even your living space reflects this pattern. Clean, organized, peaceful spaces make you anxious. So you let things pile up until it's overwhelming. Then panic clean. Then let it deteriorate again. The cycle of mess and stress feels more authentic than consistent order. At least chaos doesn't lie to you, doesn't pretend everything's okay when you know it can't be. Right now, life might actually be okay, and that thought terrifies you more than any actual problem would. Because if everything's okay, why do you still feel so wrong? If there's no external chaos to blame, then maybe the chaos is just you. Maybe you're the common denominator in every drama, the author of every crisis, the one lighting matches in rooms full of gasoline, just to feel the familiar warmth of everything burning. Abandoning habits under stress, setting fires to feel normal works until the smoke gets in your eyes, until the chaos you created to feel comfortable becomes genuinely stressful. And what happens then? Every good habit, every positive routine, every healthy coping mechanism you worked so hard to build, gone, disappeared faster than your motivation on a Monday morning. You know the drill. Life gets hard, and suddenly that morning routine you swore was changing your life, haven't done it in weeks. The exercise that made you feel amazing, can't remember the last time. Eating healthy, stress calls for pizza at midnight, and coffee for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's like stress gives you permission to abandon yourself entirely. Look at your life right now. How many good habits have you built and destroyed? How many times have you gotten into a groove, felt like you were finally becoming the person you wanted to be, only to have one bad day, one stressful week, one life event knock you back to square one or worse? Square negativeton. Meditation practice that was helping your anxiety. The moment anxiety actually shows up, meditation is the first thing to go. Journaling that was processing your emotions. When emotions get overwhelming, the journal stays closed. It's like throwing away your umbrella the moment it starts raining. Logic has left the building, and survival mode has taken over. Stress doesn't just pause your good habits, it reverses them. Not drinking? Stress has you reaching for the bottle. Quit smoking? Stress has you buying a pack. Stopped doom scrolling? Stress has you glued to your phone until 4 a.m. Every demon you thought you'd defeated comes back for a reunion tour the moment life gets hard. You probably have a specific stress response pattern. Maybe you stop eating, or maybe you eat everything. Maybe you sleep 16 hours, or maybe you don't sleep at all. Maybe you exercise obsessively, or maybe moving from the couch to the bed counts as cardio. Whatever your pattern, you know it's not helping, but stress makes you forget everything you've learned about taking care of yourself. January, you were so optimistic. Remember, new habits, new life, new you. By February, work got stressful. By March, those habits were distant memories. By June, you're back to the exact same coping mechanisms you swore you'd never use again. By December, you're making the same resolutions, pretending this cycle isn't as predictable as the seasons. Healthy habits feel like luxury items when you're in survival mode. Who has time for yoga when you're drowning? Who can meal prep when you can barely get out of bed? Who can maintain a sleep schedule when your mind won't stop racing? So, you abandon ship, throwing overboard everything that was actually keeping you afloat. Friends notice the pattern. You were doing so well, they say, confused by your sudden reversal. But they don't understand that doing well feels like wearing a costume, and stress strips you down to who you really are, or at least, who you believe you really are. Someone who can't maintain anything good, who always returns to baseline, who proves over and over that change is temporary, but patterns are permanent. Stress becomes your excuse for everything. Can't exercise too stressed, can't eat well too stressed, can't sleep properly, can't maintain relationships, can't keep commitments stressed, stressed, stressed. It's a get-out-of-jail-free card for self-destruction, a permission slip signed by life circumstances. You've probably tried to maintain habits through stress, white-knuckling your way through routines that feel impossible. But that usually lasts about 3 days before you crash harder than before, because you're not just fighting stress, you're fighting your deep belief that you don't deserve care when life gets hard. That self-care is earned through good circumstances, not necessary through difficult ones. Recovery from these stress-induced collapses takes longer each time. It's not just about rebuilding the habits, it's about rebuilding the belief that you're worth maintaining them, that you deserve care, especially when stressed, not despite it. But that voice in your head says different. It says, real problems deserve real breakdowns. And maintaining healthy habits during hard times is just pretending everything's fine when it's not. Right now, you might be in the middle of this cycle. Stress has you reaching for old patterns, old comforts, old destructions. The healthy habits you built are gathering dust while you survive on autopilot, knowing you're making everything worse, but feeling powerless to stop. Tomorrow, you tell yourself, when things calm down, when stress reduces, when life gets easier. But life doesn't get easier, you're supposed to get stronger. Except you keep abandoning the very things that would make you stronger the moment strength is actually required. Overcommitting, abandoning everything when stressed creates a vacuum, and nature hates a vacuum. So does your guilt. When the storm passes, and you survey the damage, all the dropped balls, broken commitments, abandoned habits, something desperate awakens in you. Suddenly, you're saying yes to everything, as if you could make up for lost time by doing everything at once. Your calendar becomes a game of Tetris, where you're trying to fit 30 hours of commitments into a 24-hour day. Sure, I can help with that project. Yes, I'll attend that event. Of course, I can take on extra work. No problem, I'll be there. Each yes feels like redemption for all the times you failed, all the things you dropped, all the people you disappointed, including yourself. Check your schedule right now. How many of those commitments did you actually want to make? How many were you genuinely excited about versus how many were you unable to decline? You've become a professional yes person, but not because you're enthusiastic, because saying no feels like admitting you're the unreliable person you fear you are. Overcommitting is your apology for existing incorrectly. Every yes is a sorry for all your no's. Every obligation accepted is penance for obligations dropped. You're trying to earn your way back to worthiness through exhaustion, as if being overwhelmed proves you're trying, even when you absolutely know you won't be able to follow through on half of what you've promised. Wednesday night, you're triple booked. Saturday, you have 4 places to be. Next month, already overwhelming, and it hasn't even arrived yet. You're writing checks your energy can't cash, making promises your future self will curse you for. But in the moment of being asked, the fear of disappointing someone overrides the reality of your limitations. People think you're so generous with your time. Really, you're terrified of being seen as selfish. They think you're incredibly capable. Really, you're proving something to yourself that can never actually be proven this way. They think you love being involved in everything. Really, you're drowning and convinced that admitting it would be worse than the drowning itself. You know what happens next. The commitments pile up, the stress builds, and suddenly you're back to abandoning everything. It's a cycle: overcommit, burn out, drop everything, feel guilty, overcommit again. You're either doing nothing or everything, with no middle ground, no sustainable pace, no realistic assessment of what you can actually handle. Time estimation becomes fiction when you're overcommitting. That'll only take an hour. You say about something that takes 3. I can squeeze that in, you say about something that needs dedicated focus. It's on my way. You say about something 20 minutes out of your way. You're lying to everyone, but mostly to yourself, about the reality of time and space and human limitations. Even rest becomes a commitment. You schedule relaxation like it's another task. Pencil in self-care between impossible obligations. Promise yourself you'll take breaks you know you won't take. Your downtime has uptime energy planned, structured. One more thing you'll fail at when you inevitably skip it for something more important. Remember last time you had a free weekend? Actually free, not free except for these 7 things. You probably can't, because even when time opens up, you immediately fill it. Someone mentions they need help moving, and before your brain can register that you desperately need rest, your mouth has already volunteered. It's like your yes reflex is faster than your self-preservation instinct. Digital overcommitting adds another layer. Slack messages, email threads, group chats, project management tools. You're available everywhere, all the time, saying yes to things you're barely reading. Virtual meetings stack up like planes, waiting to land at an overwhelmed airport. You're present everywhere and nowhere, spread so thin, you're basically transparent. Quality becomes a casualty of quantity. Everything gets your partial attention, your exhausted effort, your diminished capacity. You're showing up physically, but checked out mentally. Present, but not really there. Everyone gets a piece of you, but no one, including you, gets anything substantial. Right now, you're probably thinking about all the things you've committed to this week, the growing anxiety about how you'll manage it all, the mental math that doesn't add up, the future moment when it all comes crashing down and you have to admit again that you've overextended yourself. But even knowing this, even recognizing the pattern, the next time someone asks something of you, the next opportunity that presents itself, the next chance to prove you're reliable, capable, worthy, your mouth will open, and that word will fall out. Yes. Because saying no feels like admitting defeat, and you're not ready to stop fighting a war against your own limitations. Minimizing achievements. Fighting a war against your own limitations leaves you exhausted, and even when you win, even when you actually accomplish something, remarkable victory tastes like nothing. Success shrinks the moment it happens. Achievements evaporate before the champagne has time to go flat. You graduated. Well, everyone graduates. Got promoted. They probably just needed someone. Completed that project. It wasn't that hard. Received recognition. Slow news day. Your accomplishments go through a minimization machine in your mind, coming out the other side as barely worth mentioning, definitely not worth celebrating, absolutely not worth feeling proud about. People congratulate you, and you immediately educate them on why it's not a big deal. You got the job? There weren't many applicants. You won the award? It was just lucky timing. You achieved your goal? It was easier than expected. You're not being humble. You genuinely believe your achievements don't count, don't matter, don't prove anything except that you've temporarily fooled people into thinking you're competent. Think about your last real accomplishment. How long did you let yourself feel good about it? 10 minutes? 5? Or did you skip straight to explaining why it wasn't really an accomplishment at all? You probably have a black belt in diminishing your own successes, turning mountains you've climbed into molehills anyone could step over. Social media makes it worse. You see others celebrating their wins and think their achievements are real, valid, worth the praise. But yours are asterisked, footnoted, requiring explanation of all the ways they don't really count. Everyone else earned their success. You just stumbled into yours through luck, timing, or cosmic administrative error. Your brain keeps meticulous records of everything you haven't achieved yet, but amnesia strikes the moment you accomplish something. Yesterday's impossible goal becomes today's no big deal the second you achieve it. The bar doesn't just move, it teleports to another dimension where nothing you do will ever be enough to reach it. Friends and family have probably stopped celebrating your wins because you've trained them not to. Why throw a party for someone who'll spend the whole time explaining why there's nothing to celebrate? Why toast to success when you'll immediately water it down with all the ways it wasn't really successful? You've become the wet blanket at your own victory parade. Professional achievements get the harshest treatment. Years of hard work dismissed with, anyone could have done it. Expertise developed through thousands of hours reduced to, I just got lucky. Skills that others struggle to develop, labeled as basic stuff. You could literally be the world expert in something and still convince yourself you barely know the basics. Even when evidence of your achievement is right there, the degree on the wall, the promotion letter, the finished project, your brain finds ways to invalidate it. Maybe you had help. Maybe standards were lower. Maybe everyone was just being nice. The mental gymnastics required to dismiss your own success could win Olympic gold. But you'd probably minimize that too. Comparison plays its role here. Someone else did it faster, better, younger, with less help. Your achievement only counts if it's the ultimate achievement. Being good isn't good enough when someone else is better. Being successful isn't successful enough when someone else has more. You don't just move the goalposts, you put them on a rocket ship headed for another galaxy. Past achievements dissolve completely. Something you were proud of 5 years ago now makes you cringe. Why did I think that was good? Why, you wonder, retroactively minimizing things that once meant everything to you. Your past self's victories become present self's embarrassments, evidence of how low your standards used to be. Right now, if someone asked you to list your achievements, you'd probably struggle, not because you haven't achieved things, but because the moment something becomes an achievement, it stops feeling like one. It's like your accomplishments are written in disappearing ink, visible for a moment, before fading into nothing. Meanwhile, that one thing you failed at 5 years ago? Crystal clear, perfectly preserved, available for instant recall. Your failures are carved in stone, while your successes are written in sand at high tide. The museum of your mistakes is expertly curated, but the gallery of your achievements, permanently closed for renovations that never happen. You're living a life where nothing you do is ever enough to prove you're enough. Every achievement is just evidence of how much more you should be achieving. Every success is just highlighting how much further you have to go. Every win is immediately transformed into a reminder of all the ways you're still losing. Waiting for the perfect moment. Nothing you've done is ever enough, so naturally, everything you want to do needs to wait until conditions are perfect, until you're ready, until the stars align, until that mythical moment arrives when you'll finally be qualified, prepared, deserving enough to begin. Spoiler alert, that moment is scheduled for the 31st of never. I'll start when has become your mantra. When you have more money, when you have more time, when you lose weight, when you gain confidence, when Mercury stops being in retrograde, when you feel ready. But readiness is a feeling you've never actually experienced, so you're waiting for something you wouldn't recognize even if it showed up with a name tag. Look at your dreams right now. Not the ones you've given up on, the ones you're going to pursue. How long have they been sitting in your someday folder? That business you'll start when the economy is better. That book you'll write when you have the perfect idea. That relationship you'll pursue when you've worked on yourself enough. Years pass, and they're still waiting for permission to exist. Monday is your favorite day that never comes. I'll start Monday, you say, on Tuesday, knowing full well that when Monday arrives, it'll just be another day that doesn't feel right. New month, new year, after vacation, after this stressful period, you've got a start date for everything, except actually starting. Perfect conditions are a myth you've sold yourself to avoid the discomfort of beginning badly. Because beginning badly means being a beginner, and being a beginner means not being perfect, and not being perfect means, what? That you're human. That seems to be the thing you're most afraid of admitting. You've probably researched whatever you want to do to death. Read every article, watched every video, bought every book. You're an expert in theory, a master of preparation, a scholar of getting ready to get ready. You know more about your dream than some people who are actually living it. But knowledge isn't experience, and all your research is just sophisticated procrastination. Conditions actually get worse while you wait, don't they? You're not getting younger. The market isn't getting less competitive. Opportunities aren't multiplying while you deliberate. But somehow, your brain convinces you that waiting makes things easier, that tomorrow you'll be more equipped than today, even though yesterday's tomorrow is today, and you're still not ready. Friends have probably stopped asking about your plans. They've heard soon too many times, watched you almost start so often, seen you get excited about beginning, then find 17 reasons why now isn't the right time. They've learned not to get invested in your somedays, because someday never comes. Even small things fall victim to perfect timing syndrome. Calling that friend, wait until you have something interesting to say. Starting that workout routine, wait until Monday. No, January. No, when life is less stressful. Organizing your space, wait until you can do it all at once, properly, perfectly. Everything waits for conditions that exist only in your imagination. Financial readiness is your favorite excuse. Need more savings, better credit, stable income, 6 months of expenses, a year of expenses, a lottery win. The number keeps growing because it was never about the money. It's about feeling safe enough to fail. But no amount of money makes failure feel safe when you've convinced yourself. Failure means death. Age becomes a weapon you use against yourself. Too young to be taken seriously. Too old to start now. There's apparently a 3-day window when you're the perfect age to begin anything, and you must have been sick that week. Everyone else started earlier or could start later, but you're permanently the wrong age for your own life. The perfect moment you're waiting for, you know what it looks like. You'll wake up, confident, motivated, prepared. Fear will vanish. Doubt will disappear. You'll just know it's time. But that's not how beginning works. That's how movies work. Real life begins with terror, proceeds with doubt, continues with mistakes. Right now, you're probably thinking about that thing you want to start. The thing you've been about to do for months, years maybe. Your brain is already supplying reasons why now isn't the time. Too tired, too stressed, too unprepared, too something. Always too something, never just right. But while you're waiting for perfect conditions, other people are succeeding with worse conditions, starting with less, achieving with fewer resources. Not because they're special because they started, because they chose imperfect action over perfect paralysis. Because they understood that waiting for ready means waiting forever. Busyness, addiction, waiting forever for the perfect moment creates a special kind of anxiety and the guilt of not doing. So you've found the perfect solution. Stay so busy that no one, including yourself, can accuse you of not trying. Fill every moment with motion, every silence with noise, every space with something, anything that looks like productivity. Your calendar is a cry for help, disguised as success. Back-to-back meetings, overlapping deadlines, 17 browser tabs open, phone notifications, creating a constant symphony of demands. You're running on a treadmill at maximum speed, sweating, exhausted, impressive to watch, and going absolutely nowhere. Busy has become your identity. How are you? So busy. It rolls off your tongue like a badge of honor, proof of your importance, your value, your worth. But underneath the performance of productivity, you know the truth. You're using busy like a drug to avoid feeling empty. Motion has become your medication for the anxiety of stillness. Check your screen time. How many hours today did you spend doing things that felt urgent but weren't important? Responding to messages that could have waited, attending meetings that could have been emails, organizing things that were already organized, creating work to avoid real work. You're professionally busy at being busy, a master of movement without progress. Free time terrifies you more than deadlines. An empty afternoon feels like staring into the void. So you fill it errands that could wait, projects that don't matter, conversations you don't want to have. You'll literally create problems to solve rather than sit with the discomfort of having nothing to do. Because having nothing to do means being alone with yourself, and that's the one meeting you keep rescheduling. Sunday scaries hit different when you're addicted to busy. Not because Monday is coming, but because the weekend expects you to rest, and rest feels like falling behind. So you schedule your weekends like work days, fill them with tasks and obligations, turn relaxation into another item on your to-do list that you'll somehow fail at. People admire your work ethic, not realizing it's not work ethic, it's work addiction. They see dedication where there's actually desperation. They see ambition where there's actually anxiety. You're not climbing a ladder, you're running from something, and as long as you keep moving, you don't have to figure out what. Even your hobbies have become jobs. Fun has KPIs now. Relaxation requires optimization. You can't just read. You need to hit your book goal. Can't just exercise. Need to track every metric. Can't just exist. Existence requires documentation, improvement, and productivity. You've turned your entire life into a workplace where you're both the demanding boss and the exhausted employee. Multitasking is your superpower that's actually your kryptonite. Listening to podcasts while exercising, while planning dinner, while texting, while thinking about tomorrow. You're everywhere and nowhere, doing everything and nothing, present in body but absent in mind. You've confused being scattered with being productive, being overwhelmed with being important. Remember the last time you did absolutely nothing? Not scrolling, not planning, not optimizing, just nothing. Your brain probably can't compute. Doing nothing feels like dying, like disappearing, like admitting you're not necessary. So you stay busy to stay alive, even though all this busyness is killing you slowly. Your phone is your busyness dealer, always ready with another hit. Email, Slack, news, social media. Infinite scrolling through infinite nothing, feeling productive because your fingers are moving, your eyes are scanning, your brain is processing. But processing what? Noise disguised as signal. Distraction disguised as engagement. Physical symptoms are screaming at you. The tension headaches, the tight shoulders, the exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. Your body is begging for rest, but your mind interprets rest as failure. So you power through, fueled by caffeine and anxiety, proud of your ability to keep going, not realizing that keeping going isn't the same as getting somewhere. Right now, even as you're trying to fall asleep, your mind is probably running tomorrow's schedule, adding tasks, finding gaps to fill. The thought of empty space in your calendar creates panic. What if someone thinks you're not working hard enough? What if you think you're not working hard enough? What if stillness reveals that all this movement is just elaborate standing still? You're so busy avoiding life that you're missing life. So busy proving you matter that you've forgotten what matters. So busy running that you've forgotten what you're running from or toward. Giving up quickly, running nowhere at maximum speed, eventually leads to the inevitable: you hit a wall. And when you do, when something actually challenges you, when the busyness can't mask the difficulty anymore, you quit. Not after a valiant effort, not after exhausting all options. You quit at the first sign of resistance, like a professional escape artist who's rigged the locks to fail. "I tried" becomes your exit line. Except trying for you means dipping your toe in the water, feeling it's cold, and declaring swimming impossible. You collect started but not finished projects, like trophies of good intentions. Guitar gathering dust, language app unused after day 3, gym membership that peaked on January 2nd. You're not bad at things, you're just never around long enough to find out if you could be good. Think about the last skill you wanted to learn. You probably started with enthusiasm, bought the equipment, watched the tutorials, maybe even told people about your new journey. But then reality hit. It was harder than YouTube made it look. Progress was slower than Instagram promised. You weren't immediately good at it, which your brain interpreted as, "You'll never be good at it," so you quietly let it fade away. Difficulty feels like a personal insult to you. Like the universe is specifically telling you that you're not meant for this. Other people push through resistance. You see resistance as a red light, a cosmic sign to stop immediately. Why continue? When struggling, clearly means you're on the wrong path. Never mind that everyone struggles at the beginning. Your struggle is special, different, proof of inadequacy. You've probably got a graveyard of abandoned dreams, each with the same cause of death. It got hard. Writing a book. Stopped at chapter 2 when words stopped flowing. Starting a business. Quit when the first client said no. Learning to paint. Brushes down the moment your tree looked like broccoli. You're allergic to the discomfort of being bad at something, so you quit before anyone, including you, can witness your imperfection. The quitting happens so fast now, it's almost automatic. Something doesn't work immediately. Next, hit a small obstacle. Moving on. Feel frustrated for 5 minutes. This isn't for me. You've trained yourself to interpret any negative feeling as a stop sign, any challenge as confirmation that you should quit. Your resilience muscle has atrophied from lack of use. People probably don't even know about half the things you've started. You've learned to begin quietly, privately, because announcing means eventually explaining why you quit. Better to fail in secret than admit to giving up publicly. So you start things in the shadows and abandon them in silence, accumulating a collection of almosts that nobody knows about. Comparison accelerates your quitting. You see someone else's day 1000 and compare it to your day 3, then quit because you're so far behind. You watch experts make it look easy and decide you're broken because it's hard for you. Everyone else's highlight reel becomes evidence that you should stop trying, not inspiration to keep going. Even when you're making progress, you can't see it. Small improvements are invisible to you. You're either perfect or terrible, with no recognition of the massive space in between where actual growth happens. You quit while you're actually getting better, but because better doesn't feel like best, it might as well be worst. The pattern is predictable: excitement, attempt, obstacle, quit, rinse, and repeat with something new. You're not living life, you're speed dating experiences, ghosting them the moment they ask for commitment. Always starting, never continuing, certainly never finishing. Your life is a series of first dates, with dreams that never get a second chance. Guilt follows each quitting, but it's not enough to make you go back. Instead, it just adds to the pile of evidence that you're someone who can't stick with things, can't push through, can't succeed. Each quit makes the next quit easier until giving up becomes your default setting, your first response to any challenge. Right now, there's probably something you're about to quit. Something that's gotten difficult, frustrating, slower than expected. Your brain is already writing the exit story it wasn't meant to be. It's not the right fit, maybe later. You're preparing to add another item to your collection of things you tried. But what if just once you stayed? What if you pushed through the part where it's hard, boring, frustrating? What if you discovered what's on the other side of quitting? You'll never know, because you'll be gone before the lesson arrives, moved on before the breakthrough comes, quit before the miracle happens. Over-apologizing. Quitting before the miracle happens leaves a trail of unfinished stories, and somewhere along the way, you started apologizing for all of them, for taking up space, for having needs, for existing in a way that might possibly, maybe, theoretically inconvenience someone. Sorry has become your punctuation mark, your greeting, your goodbye, your default response to being human. You probably said sorry at least 5 times today for things that weren't your fault. Someone bumped into you. Sorry. Someone else made a mistake. Sorry. You sneezed. Sorry. You exist in a room where other people also exist. Sorry for being here. You've turned apologizing into an art form, a reflex so automatic you don't even realize you're doing it anymore. Count the unnecessary apologies in your last text conversation. Sorry for the long message. Sorry to bother you. Sorry if this doesn't make sense. Sorry for the delay when you responded within an hour. You're pre-apologizing, post-apologizing, and apologizing for apologizing. Your messages read like you're constantly asking permission to communicate. Walking through doors has become an apology obstacle course. Someone's 10 feet behind you, hold it open and apologize for the awkwardness. Someone's coming out as you go in, apologize for existing in the same doorway. You've probably apologized to inanimate objects, tables you've bumped, chairs you've moved, your own car when you start it too aggressively. Sorry isn't even an apology anymore, it's a shield. A preemptive strike against potential conflict, criticism, or disappointment. If you apologize first, maybe they won't be mad. If you make yourself small enough, maybe you won't be a target. If you constantly acknowledge your wrongness, maybe they won't have to point it out. Meetings are your apology marathon. Sorry, can I just add something? As if contributing is a crime. Sorry, I might be wrong, but... As if having thoughts requires forgiveness. Sorry, this might be a stupid question. As if learning is something to be ashamed of. You're asking permission to participate in your own life. Friends have probably told you to stop apologizing so much. And what did you say? Sorry. Because now you're apologizing for apologizing. Trapped in an infinite loop of unnecessary remorse. You can't even accept feedback about over-apologizing without apologizing for it. Real apologies have lost their meaning in the flood of false ones. When you actually need to apologize for something, it gets lost in the noise of all your reflexive sorries. You've devalued your own currency of remorse by spending it on things that don't require payment. The word has become meaningless through overuse, like saying a word so many times it stops sounding like a word. Power dynamics shift when you're constantly apologizing. You're telling everyone around you that you're wrong before they even think you are. You're accepting blame that doesn't exist, taking responsibility for things beyond your control. You've appointed yourself the official scapegoat for all of life's minor inconveniences. Emails are where your apologizing reaches championship levels. Sorry for the delay when you responded the same day. Sorry if this has already been discussed when it hasn't. Sorry to ask when asking is literally your job. You write emails like you're constantly inconveniencing everyone, like your professional communication is a burden they're forced to bear. Physical space becomes something you apologize for occupying. You make yourself smaller on public transport, apologizing with your body language before your mouth even opens. You apologize for reaching for things, for standing where you're standing, for breathing too loudly. You're sorry for taking up atoms that could be used for something more important. Restaurant orders require apologies. Sorry, could I have? As if wanting food at a restaurant is an unusual request. Sorry, but this isn't what I ordered when they brought you something completely different. You apologize to service workers for requiring service, to cashiers for purchasing things, to doctors for having symptoms. Right now, reading this, you might be thinking, sorry. Sorry for relating too much. Sorry for not relating enough. Sorry for whatever emotion you're feeling about your own patterns. You're probably crafting apologies for things you haven't even done yet, preparing your sorries for tomorrow's imagined transgressions. You know what never gets an apology? Your own needs, your boundaries, your legitimate feelings. You'll apologize for everyone else's discomfort, but never acknowledge your own. You're sorry for everything except the one thing that might actually deserve an apology. The way you constantly betray yourself by acting like your existence is something to be sorry for. Rejecting help. Apologizing for existing while simultaneously refusing any assistance that might make existing easier. It's a special kind of self-punishment. Someone offers help, and your response is automatic. I'm fine. I've got it. Don't worry about me. You're drowning but waving away life preservers because accepting them would mean admitting you can't swim. No, really, I'm good. Might be the biggest lie you tell regularly. You're not good. You're overwhelmed, exhausted, barely holding it together. But admitting that feels more dangerous than continuing to struggle. So you smile, decline the help, and then later, always later, collapse in private, where no one can see how much you needed what you refused. Help feels like judgment to you. If someone offers assistance, your brain translates it as, they think you're incompetent, weak, failing. They've noticed you're struggling, which means your performance of being okay isn't working. So you double down, refuse harder, prove you don't need anyone, even when needing someone would be the most normal, human thing in the world. Picture the last time you were visibly struggling with something, carrying too many groceries, juggling too many tasks, fighting back tears in public. Someone probably approached, offered a hand, and you, what did you do? Smiled brightly and said you were fine, then struggled another 10 minutes with what would have taken them 10 seconds to help you with. You've created elaborate systems to avoid needing help. You'll spend 3 hours figuring something out yourself, rather than ask someone who knows. You'll make 5 trips rather than let someone carry something. You'll stay up all night, finishing something, rather than admit you need an extension. Independence isn't just important to you, it's become your entire identity. Moving apartments alone, building furniture with instructions you don't understand, going through breakups in silence, dealing with health issues without telling anyone. You treat life like a solo sport when everyone else is playing on teams. You're competing in a game where asking for help is losing, so you're constantly losing by winning alone. Financial help? Absolutely not. You'll eat rice for a week before borrowing $20. You'll let bills pile up before asking for assistance. You'll stress yourself into illness before admitting you're struggling with money. There's something about financial help that feels especially shameful, like it reveals some fundamental failure at adulting. Emotional support gets the strongest rejection. Someone asks if you want to talk about it, and you'd rather eat glass. You're crying? Just tired. You're anxious? Just coffee jitters. You're depressed? Just one of those days. You minimize, deflect, redirect anything to avoid the vulnerability of letting someone help carry your emotional weight. Even small help feels impossible to accept. Someone offers to grab you coffee while they're out. No thanks. Someone suggests taking something off your plate. I've got it handled. Someone wants to give you a ride. I like walking. Every offer gets declined, every gesture refused, every kindness rejected, like your independence depends on it. Pride isn't quite the right word for what you feel. It's more like terror. Terror of being seen as needy, dependent, burdensome. You've convinced yourself that needing help makes you less worthy, less valuable, less deserving of the space you're already apologizing for occupying. So, you refuse help like your worth depends on never needing anything from anyone. Google has become your therapist, your advisor, your teacher, your everything, because Google doesn't judge you for not knowing. You can ask Google the same question 17 times. You can admit to Google that you don't understand basic things. Google won't think less of you, won't remember your weakness, won't use your need against you later. Meanwhile, you're the first to offer help to others. You see someone struggling and immediately jump in. You give what you won't accept. Offer what you won't receive. You can spot need in others from a mile away, but pretend your own need is invisible, even when it's written all over your exhausted face. Right now, there's probably help available that you're not taking. A friend who would listen, a service you could use, a person who's actually offered, and you've said, maybe later, knowing later means never. You're surrounded by life preservers, but insisting you're not drowning, even as the water rises past your chin. You know what's really happening. You're rejecting help because accepting it would mean admitting you're human. And being human, vulnerable, needy, imperfect, feels like the one thing you can't afford to be. So you keep refusing, keep struggling, keep insisting you're fine, even when fine is the last thing you are. Future anxiety, refusing help while insisting you're fine, leaves you alone with your thoughts, and your thoughts have one favorite destination: tomorrow, next week, next year, the endless realm of everything that could go wrong. You're not living in the present. You're time traveling to disasters that haven't happened yet, suffering through futures that may never exist. Right now, lying there, you're probably not thinking about this moment. You're thinking about tomorrow's meeting, next month's bills, that thing happening in 6 months that might not even happen. Your mind is a fortune teller specializing in catastrophe, reading tea leaves that always spell doom, crystal balls that only show worst-case scenarios. 5 years from now, you've already lived it 17 different ways, each worse than the last. Lost job, failed relationships, health problems, financial ruin. You've rehearsed every terrible possibility so thoroughly that you're exhausted from lives you haven't lived, defeated by battles you haven't fought, mourning losses that haven't happened. Sunday nights are your anxiety Olympics. Everyone else is watching Netflix. You're watching mental movies of Monday falling apart. Every possible thing that could go wrong at work. Every conversation that could go badly. Every mistake you might make. By the time Monday actually arrives, you've already lived through it multiple times, each version more stressful than what actually happens. Planning becomes impossible when every plan leads to disaster in your mind. Want to take a trip? Your brain immediately supplies plane crashes, passport problems, getting sick abroad. Thinking about changing careers? Here's a detailed preview of failure, bankruptcy, and regret. Considering a relationship? Your mind's already written the breakup, complete with soundtrack and dialogue. You don't make decisions, you make anxiety. Every choice branches into infinite possibilities of how it could go wrong. The simple act of choosing what to have for lunch becomes a complex calculation of food poisoning, probabilities, allergy developments, judgment from others. You're playing chess against future you, and future you knows all your moves. Sleep evades you because nighttime is when future anxiety throws its biggest parties. 3 a.m. is apparently the perfect time to worry about retirement, climate change, whether you'll die alone, if that weird mole is cancer, what happens when your parents get older. Your bed becomes a time machine set permanently to worst possible future. Even good things get contaminated by future anxiety. Get a promotion? Now you're anxious about increased responsibility. Start a relationship? Already worried about when it ends. Achieve something? Concerned about maintaining it. You can't enjoy the present because you're too busy defending against futures that exist only in your head. Weather forecasts, news predictions, economic outlooks. You consume them like someone studying for a test on disasters. You need to know what's coming, need to prepare for every possibility, need to be ready for the worst. But being ready means being anxious, and being anxious means missing everything good that's happening right now. Conversations become minefields of future implications. Someone says something slightly off, and you're already projecting how this means they'll abandon you in 3 months. A small work mistake becomes a preview of inevitable firing. A minor health symptom spawns a medical drama that ends in tragedy. You're not having experiences. You're having previews of how experiences will go wrong. Control is what you're really after. If you can just worry enough, plan enough, anticipate enough, maybe you can prevent the bad things. Like anxiety as a form of protection, a shield against surprise. But all it's really protecting you from is the possibility of enjoying your life while you're living it. Your phone feeds the beast. Notifications about things that might happen. News about what could go wrong. Predictions about futures that may never arrive. You're marinating in maybe, drowning in what if, suffocating in someday. The future feels more real than the present because you spend more time there. Right now, this actual moment is probably okay. You're safe, breathing, alive. But your mind can't accept that because it's too busy being somewhere else, someone else. Tomorrow, next year, the eventual heat death of the universe. All of it feels urgent, demanding your attention, requiring your worry. You're so focused on preparing for futures that might never come. You're missing the only moment you actually have this one. The future you're so anxious about. It doesn't exist yet. And when it becomes the present, you won't be there either. You'll be anxiously living in the next future, forever one step ahead of your actual life. Fear, paralysis. Living one step ahead of your actual life means you've already failed at everything before you've tried anything. Fear has become your operating system, not just an emotion you feel, but the lens through which you see every opportunity, every choice, every possibility. You're not just afraid, you're frozen, suspended in amber made of your own terror. Fear whispers so loudly in your ear that it drowns out everything else. What if they laugh? So you don't speak. What if you fail? So you don't try. What if it hurts? So you don't love. What if you're wrong? What if you're wrong? So you don't choose. Every action has been neutralized by a what if that feels more real than reality itself. You've become an expert at standing perfectly still while life moves around you. Opportunities pass by like trains you're too scared to board. Invitations expire while you're calculating risks. Doors close while you're standing there, hand raised to knock, never quite making contact. You're living in a permanent state of almost ready, almost brave, almost doing something. Phone calls you need to make sit in your mental queue for weeks. The number is right there. Your finger hovers over it. But fear creates a force field between intention and action. What if they're angry? What if it goes badly? What if? And so the call never happens, the problem grows, and fear feeds itself with the consequences of its own paralysis. Job applications saved in drafts, never sent. Conversations rehearsed, never had. Dreams planned in detail, never pursued. You're a professional architect of things that will never be built. A scholar of opportunities you'll never take. Your life is a museum of possibilities frozen in fear, preserved perfectly in their potential state. Physical sensations accompany your paralysis, heart racing while body freezes, mind spinning while feet stay planted. You're simultaneously fight and flight, cancelling each other out into absolute stillness. Your body is screaming, do something, while your fear responds, don't move, and don't move wins every time. Simple decisions become impossible when filtered through fear. Which restaurant? What if it's bad? Which outfit? What if it's wrong? Which path? What if it leads nowhere? You're standing at life's buffet, starving, unable to put anything on your plate because every choice might be the wrong choice. And wrong feels like death. Email drafts are where your courage goes to die. You write the message, the application, the response, then fear edits it, rewrites it, questions it, and ultimately deletes it. Your sent folder is empty, but your drafts are full of lives you almost lived, chances you almost took, connections you almost made. People mistake your paralysis for laziness, indifference, lack of ambition. They don't see the war happening inside you, the exhausting battle between wanting and fearing, between dreams and terror. You're not doing nothing. You're doing everything except the thing, spending enormous energy on not moving, using all your strength to stay still. Fear has logical explanations for everything, reasonable reasons why not, sensible arguments for staying safe. It dresses up as wisdom, as caution, as being realistic. But really, it's just fear in a business suit, making PowerPoint presentations about why you should never do anything that matters. Small fears have grown into monsters while you've been feeding them with avoidance. That thing you were nervous about last year? Now it's terrifying. That person you were too shy to talk to? Now they're impossible to approach. That goal you were scared to pursue? Now it's moved from frightening to fantasy, something other people do. People who aren't paralyzed by their own heartbeat. Adventures you'll never take, haunt you like ghosts of the person you could have been. Places you'll never visit, people you'll never meet, experiences you'll never have, all because fear built a cage and convinced you it was for your own protection. You're safe, sure. Safe from failure, safe from rejection, safe from disappointment, also safe from success, joy, connection, and everything that makes life worth living. Right now, there's something fear is keeping you from doing. Something important, something that could change everything, something that part of you desperately wants. But fear is louder than want, stronger than dreams, more convincing than hope. So you stay still, paralyzed, watching life happen to other people, people who feel fear too, but somehow move anyway. And tomorrow? Tomorrow you'll wake up in the same position, frozen by the same fears, paralyzed by the same what-ifs, wondering what would happen if, just once, you moved despite the fear. Toxic relationships. Moving despite the fear becomes impossible when the people around you prefer you frozen. They've gotten comfortable with your smallness, your silence, your predictable patterns of self-destruction, and somehow through loneliness, habit, or the gravitational pull of familiar dysfunction, you've surrounded yourself with people who need you to stay exactly as broken as you are. Look at your inner circle right now. Really look. How many of them celebrate when you grow? How many get uncomfortable when you succeed? There's probably at least one person who responds to your good news with, "Must be nice," or, "Well, actually," or subtle reminders of when you failed. They're not your friend, they're your mirror, reflecting back every doubt you have about yourself. Energy vampires, they're called. But that's too mythical for what they really are. They're more like emotional black holes, sucking in your light, your joy, your potential, and giving back nothing but the darkness they're made of. You leave every interaction feeling drained, somehow guilty, vaguely wrong about yourself. But you keep going back because they need you, or because their treatment of you confirms what you already believe about yourself. You know exactly who came to mind just now. The friend who only calls when they need something. The family member who has something critical to say about every choice you make. The partner who makes you feel like you're asking for too much when you're barely asking for anything. They're still in your life, aren't they? Still taking up space in your phone, your thoughts, your anxiety. Boundaries with these people are like lines drawn in water. They disappear the moment you make them. "I can't talk about this anymore" becomes another hour of listening to their problems. "I need space" becomes you apologizing for needing space. They've trained you well. They know exactly which buttons to push, which guilt to trigger, which insecurity to poke. Drama follows them like a cloud, and somehow you're always caught in their reign. Their emergencies become your responsibilities. Their feelings become your management project. Their happiness, or more often, their unhappiness, becomes your problem to solve. You're not in a relationship. You're in an unpaid internship where your job is to absorb their dysfunction. Text messages from them make your stomach drop. Their name on your phone screen feels like a threat. You rehearse conversations before seeing them, prepare defenses, steel yourself for impact. Spending time with them requires recovery time, sometimes days of it. But cutting them off? That feels impossible. Mean. Selfish. All the things they've convinced you that having boundaries makes you. They have a talent for making you the villain in their story. You set a boundary? You're cruel. You succeed at something? You're showing off. You're happy? You're rubbing it in their face. They've cast you in a role where your only acceptable state is slightly less functional than them, and any deviation from that script is a betrayal. Gaslighting is their native language. That never happened. You're too sensitive. I was just joking. You always overreact. They rewrite history in real time, making you question your own memory, your own feelings, your own reality. You find yourself keeping screenshots, writing things down, needing evidence of your own experiences because they've made you doubt your own mind. You've probably tried to fix them, believed you could love them better, understand them into health, support them into stability, but they don't want to be fixed. They want to stay broken and keep you as company. Your growth threatens their stagnation. Your healing highlights their refusal to heal. Your light makes their darkness visible. Leaving feels impossible because they've convinced you no one else would tolerate you. They've isolated you, subtly or overtly, from people who might show you what healthy relationships look like. They've made themselves the center of your universe, while treating you like space debris orbiting their dysfunction. Sometimes you get glimpses of what relationships could be. Kind interactions with strangers, healthy friendships you observe from afar, couples who actually seem to like each other. It feels like watching a nature documentary about a species you'll never encounter in real life. That's for other people, people who deserve better, not for you. Right now, your phone probably contains messages you're dreading responding to, invitations you'll accept, despite knowing you'll pay for it emotionally. Relationships you maintain not out of love but out of obligation, fear, or the familiar comfort of dysfunction. They're not just toxic. They're evidence. Evidence that you are exactly who you fear you are. Someone who doesn't deserve better. Someone whose only value is in what they provide to others. Someone who should be grateful for whatever scraps of connection they're given, even when those scraps are poisoned. Ignoring red flags. Poisoned scraps of connection keep you sick. But you saw the poison label from the beginning, didn't you? The warning signs were there, bright, flashing, impossible to miss. But you've developed a superpower nobody wants, the ability to look directly at red flags and see them as quirky decorations, festive, even. Definitely not warnings of incoming disaster. Red flags register in your brain differently than they do for other people. Where others see danger, stop, turn around. You see interesting challenge, or probably nothing, or I can handle this. You're colorblind to warnings, but only the specific shade of red that signals run. Every other color you see perfectly. It's just danger that becomes invisible the moment you need to see it most. Remember the beginning of that toxic relationship? Before it was toxic, when it was just off. Little things that made your stomach twist, comments that didn't sit right, behaviors that made you pause. But you explained them away. rationalized them, filed them under "nobody's perfect," while your intuition screamed warnings you refused to hear. Job interviews where something felt wrong, but you took the position anyway. Apartments with issues you noticed during the viewing, but signed the lease regardless. Friendships that started with boundary violations you laughed off. You're not missing the red flags. You're collecting them like stamps, carefully preserving evidence you'll later claim you never saw. Your gut knows. It always knows. Physical sensations try to warn you that tightness in your chest, the knot in your stomach, the inexplicable exhaustion after certain interactions. Your body is literally trying to save you from your mind's inability to accept obvious warnings. But you've learned to override your internal alarm system, hitting snooze on survival instincts. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time you've heard this quote. Nodded along. Agreed completely. Ow. Then immediately gave someone 17 chances to show you they're different than what they've clearly shown you. You're waiting for the plot twist, where the obvious villain reveals they were the hero all along. Spoiler alert, that's not how reality works. Justification is your art form. They were rude to the waiter? They're probably stressed. They lied about small things? Everyone exaggerates. They have no long-term friendships? People grow apart. They talk badly about all their exes. Those exes must have been terrible. You could win gold in mental gymnastics, turning red flags into green lights with spectacular logical leaps. Early warnings get buried under hope. You see what could be, what might change, what potential exists while ignoring what actually island. You're dating their future self, working for the company they might become, living in the apartment that could be nice with work. You're so focused on potential that you miss the reality punching you in the face. Patterns scream for attention, but you've gone selectively deaf. Every job ends the same way? Coincidence? Every relationship has identical problems? Bad luck. Same issues keep appearing in different packaging. Must be you, no wait. That's the only common denominator you refuse to see. You'll blame the universe before you'll acknowledge the pattern. Small violations escalate while you're busy minimizing them. First, they're 15 minutes late, then an hour, then they don't show up. But you explain each escalation individually, never connecting the dots that form a clear picture of disrespect. You're viewing a progression through a kaleidoscope, fracturing the pattern into pretty pieces that don't look dangerous anymore. Friends try to point things out. That's concerning, they say. Are you sure about this? They ask. But you have explanations ready, defenses prepared. You become their defense attorney, arguing against your own best interests. They eventually stop trying, watching from the sidelines as you walk into the clearly marked disaster zone. Google searches at 2 a.m. reveal what you really know. Is it normal for? Why does someone? What does it mean when? You're looking for permission to ignore what you already understand. Searching for that one article that says the obvious red flag is actually a sign of deep love, hidden brilliance, misunderstood genius. Right now, there's something in your life waving red flags so hard it could direct air traffic. A situation, a person, a choice you're about to make despite every warning sign. You see them, you're not blind. But seeing and acknowledging are different things, and acknowledging and acting are universes apart. You're standing in a field of red flags, convinced you're in a rose garden. Explaining away the thorns, ignoring the warning signs, waiting for flowers that will never bloom, because what you're looking at was never a garden. It was always a minefield, and you've been tap dancing through it, eyes wide open but somehow completely blind.